Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. We had an in-camera session at 4:30, ended just prior to 6, and I'll cover those motions in a moment. I'd like to welcome people to our council chambers. It's lovely to have warm humans with eyeballs staring at us again in council. I know we have a few that routinely come, but it's nice to see a few more tonight. So welcome and thanks for being here. It's nicer than just the boxes in Zoom land. I'd like to open with our land acknowledgement that the town of Midland recognizes it's located on land, which is the traditional and treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people, now known as Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Beausoleil First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation. This territory is within Pre-Confederation Treaty 5 and Treaty 16 and included in the Williams Treaties of 1923. The town of Midland recognizes it's located on land, which is traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the historic homeland to the Métis, and that our town is home to a large and diverse community of Indigenous people, which is quite fitting because this is, amongst other things, Indigenous Month. I'd now like to deliver the following safety message. Should the fire alarm activate, please exit the room in an orderly fashion and proceed to the evacuation assembly area, which is located in the upper parking lot. You may exit through the main entrance, the double glass doors there, and make an immediate left, proceed out the front doors or through the secondary exit right in here behind Councillor Ball, and proceed up the stairs, check the door for heat. If it's safe, exit on the second floor, turning right and proceed out the door in front of you. Washrooms are located on our second floor to the left of the seating area, and an elevator is located just outside the main entrance. As Midland has a respectful workplace policy, anyone exhibiting violent or harassing behavior will be asked to leave. And more importantly, for anyone requiring a hearing assist device, the council chambers is equipped this way and advise the clerk, and she'll arrange for our IT staff to provide you with the device. Council meetings are recorded via Zoom and posted on YouTube, our town's YouTube site. Meetings are also broadcast on Rogers TV, Midland Channel 53 when available. And with that, I'd like to just ask for a moment of quiet contemplation before we get underway tonight. Thank you. So I have a motion. We're in section scrolling of the screen here. Section number 8 on our agenda, motions arising from closed meeting discussions. I have a motion here moved by Deputy Mayor Prost, seconded by Councillor Patel, that council receives information and confirm the directions as outlined in the confidential PowerPoint presentation, verbal report, and update provided by the Chief Administrative Officer and the Legal Risk Advisor at the closed meeting session of council held today, June 12th, 2024, with respect to both automated speed enforcement and the administrative penalties program. Council, we've had our discussion in camera. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next, I have a motion moved by Councillor Patel, seconded by Councillor Ball. The council receives information and confirm the directions as outlined in the confidential verbal report and update provided by the Chief Administrative Officer at our closed meeting session of council held today, June 12th, 2024, with respect to the CAO status update. We've had our discussion. Camera council, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And next, our approval agenda number 9, moved by Councillor Bald, seconded by Councillor Ball, that the contents of the regular council with closed session agenda for today, June 12th, 2024, be approved as amended with the following 2 amendments. The withdrawal of motion for which notice was given, item 22.4, that being that Little Lake Park stage and bandshell construction project be canceled, and that the OTF grant funds of $149,900 be returned, and that staff come back to council next year requesting new funding for the project, the request of me. And just so you know, I'm withdrawing it because that option is in the body of a report we'll be considering later this evening. So it seemed like a duplication of effort. And also the withdrawal of a motion for which notice was given, item 22.3, that staff investigate the feasibility of allowing overnight camping in Little Lake Park on long weekends in the summer, and that staff report be presented to council at a future meeting at the request of Councillor East. And that one's pulled right now because both, unbeknownst to Councillor East, I was also working on this in the background, and we are going to advance this as a budget item because there's budgetary impact and zoning and everything. We're going to do that at the proper time, which is going to be during budget. So for those that are interested in this, don't lose any hope. It's just going to come at a more appropriate time at budget time, where we'll discuss camping at Little Lake Park. So those 2 are on the printed agenda, but we won't be discussing them tonight for these reasons. So council, this is the opportunity because we're at the, oh no, we're just approving the consent agenda. So any questions about the modifications to the agenda, council? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And next, we got the consent agenda. So moved by Councillor Patel, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the items and related recommendations contained within the June 12th, 2024 consent agenda as consent items having been considered by council be adopted en masse, with the exception of item 10.4.9 CSR 2024-65 Planning Services Department Biennial Report and 2024 Strategic Land Use Initiatives Update, which was pulled and will be considered under Section 17, reports and other items withdrawn from the consent agenda for council's consideration, which includes presentations by consultants regarding a report under consideration. So council, this is your opportunity to speak to something that is on our consent agenda that has not been pulled, but you wanted to call out or have a question about. Starting off with Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. I'd like to thank staff for the bylaw with feeding the wild animals and protecting our residents and their properties. I appreciate it very much, and I'm glad to see that it's going to pass tonight. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. Just in regards to the same report, the $150 fine, I didn't ask the question, but I'm sure someone can get back to me what happens if the practice continues. And in regards to that report, I also wanted to bring to the attention, just bear with me here. I had here it is. The hardships that have been endured by many residents in a particular area. The report refers to just 3 complaints, but it was brought to my attention. I realize it's a 2017 petition that was addressing the feed the wild animals then, that was brought forward to council with 100 signatures on it. So it's not something new. So if your sanity and your pleasure of your own home is because of someone that is feeding wild animals and you're enduring very many unpleasant situations, I hope that if this bylaw doesn't work, the practice continues, that it comes forward to us again to address it even in a stronger manner. But it's a start. We'll give it a shot. Thank you.
Thanks. Just offer some reassurance on that. The set fine, it's always the option of the law enforcement officer not to issue what's called a Part 1 notice. They can go Part 3 notice, I believe, which means it's a summons for court with no set fine, and they have to explain to the justice of the peace why they're continually bothering their neighbors and defiant of our bylaw. So we don't necessarily have to define escalation of fines for a second offense, third offense, because there's always go to court and explain why you're being such a lovely neighbor. And that exists in all of our bylaws. I don't know if Smiley's online, but I thought I'd just throw that out there for your satisfaction. Any follow-up?
No, I'm satisfied. It's reassuring to know that we'll follow up on that. Just a question in regards to the media relations policy. Council is receiving some training on Friday. Are we being premature with introducing this policy before we have our policies, our media training?
Go ahead.
Through the mayor to you, Councillor Cobb. We are in alignment with the training that has been received, and it's been shared with the trainer that is going to be coming in on Friday.
Thank you.
So we're going to be trained on the new policy that presumably we're passing tonight. Councillor Ball.
I just want to congratulate all the people that were able to get the grants from Midland. I know a few of us were on that committee and it was a tough choice. So I'm glad to see that we were able to give as much as we could give out and that those organizations are moving forward in a positive way. And everybody, I know you'll probably have a plug for the golf tournament later, so I'll let you do that. But hopefully we can get more money next year for all the applicants to receive it. to read them out? Oh, Catherine has a printed version, even better. Okay. So the applications and the applicants receiving grant are Sistema Huronia Music, We Are the Villagers, Wendat Community Programs, Quest Art School and Gallery, CLH Foundation, Southern Georgian Bay Airboat Rescue, and I think they're pretty close to their goal now to have that in the area, so that's great. Midland Shuffleboard Club, Georgian Bay Food Network, and Huronia Players Community Theater. And also there was a $20,000 grant put towards Georgian Bay General Hospital, as they always require funds. Yes, thank you. And in kind for the BIA to offer our tree lighting ceremony, which hopefully they don't have to go through a grants committee application for that next year, but that'll be something I'll bother people about later.
Fantastic. Councillor Meredith?
Thank you, Mayor Gordon, through you to Mr. Farquharson. Regarding the Montreal streets storage and booster station relocation, just one question of the analysis report for 103,000. If for some reason, because this was slated to happen in around 2029, if we spend 103,000 for this analysis report today, would we have to go back and do if nothing comes to fruition through the county and affordable housing, would we have to go back in 2029, 2030 to spend that money again, or will this report suffice going another 6 years? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Gordon, to Councillor Meredith. So no, we wouldn't have to redo it. The funds that we're looking for now would cover the studies that would need it in the future. And if things don't proceed with the county, we are prepared to do the relocation when the town determines it's feasible.
Councillor Ball?
Just a quick comment on that as well. Hopefully we can meet the same target that the county is trying to meet, so that the work goes through. That's just a little encouragement. I know you guys are a great team and you can do it.
And just further to that, folks following along, this is relating to the housing lottery, I like to call it, where municipalities throughout Simcoe County submit opportunistic land to the county, hoping that they, pick me for building affordable housing in municipalities. We haven't been able to submit, I think, the last couple of times. We just weren't shovel-ready-ish enough. But that was a big goal we've been talking about since after the election, how we weren't going to miss this window, and by goodness, we didn't. And even better, the county, in my conversations with them down in Simcoe County, really identified this as, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Can you please submit this property amongst all of our land? Because they have expansion plans for that county-run facility that's adjacent to it, big expansion plans, and it desperately requires the space to do it. So, I'm not going to say it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to be picked, but I think the fact that we're talking about this and that there's major capital that's being pledged and it's subject to negotiation to rebalance our water pressure zones, which we're going to do anyway, but way down in the future. Now to have this sort of expedited and happening in the very near term future could see a real win for Midland in North Simcoe for affordable seniors housing, which is it's a huge gap right now we just don't have, and the county's ready, willing, and able. So now it comes down to the prowess of our negotiators to see just how much they'll offset the expenses for and how quickly things can get done. And of course, the capacity of our team to do this. Because what we don't want to do is lose water pressure in town or something because we built more housing haphazardly. So anyway, this is a neat read for anybody that follows along. Have a look at this. It's quite exciting. I'm cautiously optimistic. Actually, I'm even more than that. I think, I think things are going to fall into place and this could be a real win for us. So I'm really proud of staff to identify this land, work with the county and get this where it is tonight, and that it's going to get passed, and we'll see where it lands. I'm glad Councillor Ball's called out the recipients of the community grants program. It's fantastic. It's something that we love doing every year. The only part we don't love is, taking $50,000 to $60,000 of tax money on budget time and dumping it into this fund, and then giving it away. We love giving it away, but the funding source always feels prickly to us because it goes on the taxpayers' shoulders. Which leads me into I won't do my announcement and the plug for the mayor's golf tournament right now, but just suffice to say that the motivation for doing this is mimicking Tiny's wild success in finding funds for their grant programs outside of the tax base. So that's the objective, and I'm absolutely positive we're going to hit it, which means next year we can dole out at least this much money, if not more, and it didn't come off the taxpayer shoulders. So that's the objective. So congrats to all the applicants. And of course, the need always exceeds our capacity. So there were people who applied who we couldn't do it. There wasn't enough money in the fund. So if you want to help solve that problem, sign up for the golf tournament. I'll talk about it later in the announcement section. Was there anything else I wanted to pull out, talk to? I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it for the agenda for my side. Anybody else got anything else before we call the question? One more, Councillor Bell.
I just wanted to say that it's exciting to see that the One World Music Festival is expanding. So just a quick shout out to them, and their event was really successful, and it's great to see it grow.
Well said. I do look forward to that. And that kind of ties into the band shell conversation that we're going to have later this evening. I don't think it'll be done in time, but let's just see how the conversation goes. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? This is for the consent agenda. Any opposed? Carried. All right. I'm about to hand over the chair. So moved by Councillor Ball, seconded by Councillor Downer. The council resolve into the committee of the whole. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Deputy Mayor, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. Okay, if you're following along, number 12, public meetings or hearings, we have none, but we do have a presentation. Mayor Gordon will now present the 2023 Award of Merit to Rick Leaney and Michael Osborne.
This is awesome. I'm going to go down and use this other mic because IT's got it all set up for me. And I think the camera is going to pivot or something, because of course we're going to need to call up our two recipients. This is the highest honor that the municipality can bestow on any of its residents. And this year council selected, spoiler alert, Mr. Rick Leaney, no stranger to anybody in our municipality, no big deal. And also Mr. Michael Osborne. And I've got some information to read about each of them. And of course, an award and the obligatory handshake and the big grin for posterity's sake. But I'll get down to this other mic and let me read the bios. Here we are. We'll start with Rick Leaney. Rick, buddy. Our first Award of Merit recipient is Mr. Rick Leaney. Rick was born and raised in Midland, Ontario. He attended Midland High School, where he earned the Seniors Boys Division Championship for track and field. Rick also worked as a dedicated employee for the town of Midland for a total of 35 years. In his capacity as harbor master, he welcomed hundreds of people, I would argue probably thousands of people, to the shores of Midland, from boaters, captains, and daily tourists to downtown. While in my position as your mayor, I constantly received accolades about Rick's kindness, unselfishness, and his proud dedication to our town. So much so that we actually named Rick Leaney Way. And we had that, I think, just in 2018, right? Our last year of our term of council. Was it 2020? Oh, 2020, that's right. So people were always raving, and quite frankly, you rubbed off on our current harbor master because we continue to get rave reviews. So you set a high bar. Rick was always an ambassador for Midland, always putting the tourist and ship captain's needs and asks and interest at the forefront of what he did on a daily basis, often giving lifts to boaters on his own time and in his own car to get essentials in town or to help with safety issues for their travels. In September 2020, or there it is, right on the paper, council approved the renaming of the road between the town dock office and the Boathouse restaurant to be Rick Leaney Way in recognition of his longstanding public service as the town's harbor master. This presentation tonight is to the best ambassador the town of Midland has known thus far. Well-deserved recognition and honor to know Rick and dedication to the town of Midland. It's indeed a great pleasure to present the Award of Merit to Rick Laney. Congratulations, Rick.
Thank you.
This is the one, yeah, the good side. Fantastic. Thanks again, Rick.
Congratulations.
Michael Osborne.
So our second Award of Merit recipient is Michael Osborne. Since 1991, Mike has worked for the town of Midland Police Service as a frontline patrol officer, a training officer, a detective sergeant, then inspector of operations, and ultimately landing the role as chief constable or chief of police. During his 8 years as chief, the service experienced the greatest reduction in crime severity of any police service in the province and averaged increases in expenses of less than 2%. In 2008, he received the Police Exemplary Medal, Service Medal. He was also the vice president for the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, and he spent close to 17 years working with various committees for the benefit of policing all across Ontario. Mike and his wife, Jennifer, are longtime residents of Midland and North Simcoe. They've been happily married for 37 years and are the proud parents of 2 children and 4 grandchildren with whom they spend as much time as possible. Who can blame you, because I've met them. Mike is a graduate of Georgian College, the University of Guelph-Humber, the University of Toronto's Rotman School of Management, and many programs, courses, and seminars through the Ontario Police College, the Canadian Police College, and other universities. Shortly after arriving in Midland, Mike began coaching Midland minor hockey and volunteering with many community agencies, especially those supporting youth, education, mental health, poverty, and substance issues. His volunteerism was recognized by our MP and MPP at the time, whose nomination led to the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2012, by Georgian College that nominated him for the Premier's Award in 2013, and the Midland Rotary Club, who honored him with the 2017 and 2018 Vocational Service Awards. After retirement, he continued volunteering with the North Simcoe Boys and Girls Club as chair of the Midland Police Services Board. Now, more than 30 years later, he continues by assisting our community prepare for the new OPP Detachment Board and has agreed to be our community representative. Mike's dedication to the Midland community is admirable. His service was exemplary as a public servant and police officer and police leader. And as a resident, he's continued to give back to the community since retirement. It gives me great pleasure to recognize Michael Osborne on behalf of Midland Council and the community at large with the greatest honor, the Award of Merit, and thank you for your past and continued service to this municipality.
On to number 15, deputations. We do have one. I'd like to introduce Beth McCormick and Charlene. Sorry, I might have your name wrong. They're from Waypoint and will be presenting to council with respect to the Transitional Employment Opportunity Partnership. Welcome.
Okay, you can hear me now? Okay. Well, thank you for having us here today. So I'm Charlene Shardy. I work at Waypoint, and this is Beth McCormick. I'm just going to introduce our program a little bit, and then Beth is going to talk more in depth about the actual program we're bringing here to discuss with you guys today. So the program we work for is Rehab Services, or also known in the community as the Hero Center. We offer supports to clients that have mental illness with employment, recreation, and education. Beth McCormick is an employment specialist in our program, so she's going to talk about some of the benefits to Midland for this amazing opportunity and hopefully partnership we can develop.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and everyone for having us here tonight. I will just want to say our program works with a lot of people who are looking at developing employment goals and really wanting to get back into the community. So Georgian Bay Curbside Cleaners is a program that has been evolving for many years. It's not been in the town of Midland though. So here's our proposition and what we're hoping to do. So the idea is that we would have people through our program clean the main streets and the surrounding areas and help people to get gainful employment to start off with. This is a transitional employment position that's 1 year. So again, the idea is that we would be looking at having the town partner with us, and we would have 4 people typically who are hired through in a year's time, and they work part-time, working, like I said, up and down the streets of the Midland area. What they've been doing over the last 20 plus years in Penetang is looking after the town of Penetang, and I will say the town of Penetang has always been very grateful to have such a clean community. And we would like to look at having that be part of Midland as well. So a little bit about it. When the program started initially back in 1999 is when the transitional position started. It was an option that was created because workshops were then closing. And at that time, it was supporting people who were in group homes and needed a place for day programs. But we have continued to evolve that program. And again, like I said, it's more to have people who are living in the community, in their homes, who are wanting to get back to work and wanting to develop those social skills and being able to get back into routine and be able to give back to the community. And some of the people that have been a part of our transitional in more recent years, one person is a permanent employee of the town of Penetang, somebody else works at the superstore, somebody else is at Canadian Tire, and we also have a marine technician. So we're quite proud to see how people are evolving from having the opportunities in the town of Penetang. Next. So who benefits for this? I mean, I can't tell you enough. The benefits for everyone. It benefits the clients because it gets them back to work. It helps them to feel like they're part of the community again. It helps to go from having that real isolation to feeling like they're part of the community, being able to give back. It benefits the town, again, because the town is looking at having a cleaner community, a safer community, and quite even possibly having people who are familiar with the other people who are on the streets and being able to communicate and maybe work with them a little bit too. So that's really important. The other portion of it is that all of us as community members, we benefit because we are part of that clean town and we get to be quite proud of having all the tourists in our community enjoying our community. So again, when we look at the benefits, we're looking at as much as even this year or just this past weekend, have people coming out first thing Monday morning to clean up after the Butter Tart Festival. They would have been out there on the main streets, making sure that everything is done. And when I say about cleaning the streets, they're even picking up the cigarette butts. So it's like, they're very thorough in the work that they do. So that is one thing that's been really important. They also work in helping to weed some of the gardens or paint some of the benches in the parks. Whatever's needed, we talk with the town of Penetang. We work with them to develop that work plan. But there is a regular schedule as far as the actual street cleaners. But then we also have, like every Thursday, we have extended community areas in Penetang, which we say go out and do Thompson Road or Champlain Road. And so it's not just downtown, but it's all areas of the town. It doesn't get into this basic residential areas so much, but certainly the main arteries of the town. So it makes it, again, like I said, a nice thing to go with. So yeah, we'll go on. So again, community benefits. We get to have a nice clean community. We've got people who are being a part and feeling like they're part of the community. And I think that is a huge thing for our clients, to feel that they're being able to give back to the community and be part of the community and be able to move forward. Yeah. So with people who are participating. The beauty of it is they get a year of employment, they have a referral, they've built some self-confidence, they're feeling really good about themselves, and they've got the goals. Now, their goals were not necessarily to work as curbside cleaners as their long-term goal, but the goal was to be able to give back to the town. That goal is to be able to move forward and find the actual employment that they're really looking for and create those goals, whether it's to go back to school and find the employment, the career, whatever that looks like. So yeah, clients benefit in a huge way. So the physical needs of that job is really for them to have a space where they can go and get the work tools that they need, have a space where they can have a break and go to the washroom and get the directions for the day. It's having the tools and then having the safety equipment. So there's not a lot of expenditures, I will say, in the basic day-to-day needs of running it. So we work with the clients on a daily basis. So we are checking in with them and making sure that things are happening. So that financial need, when we look at it, I've got here, it's about $26,000 a year. Based on that, what we're looking at is typically we get 4 people hired and 2 people work part-time one week and 2 people work part-time one day and 2 people work part-time another day. So again, it's just a start. It's not about somebody coming in and working full-time. It's about getting 4 people back to work, giving them a part-time opportunity, letting them get back into the community, develop those job skills, employment skills, social skills, and being able to move forward. So what we've done, even in evolving with our program over the last year with the town of Penetang, is that instead of people all being hired at once, so at one time it used to be, okay, hire 4 people once a year and then they're there for the whole year. And what we've decided this year is that that's not really ideal, where it's better to hire 2 people at a time. And again, you still want 4. So that's the initial part, is that we would still have 4 and we might have to look for some people who've already got the skills to come and help us along. But the idea is that the first 2 would work for 6 months, and then we bring in 2 new people after 6 months, and then the people who have been there for 6 months are able to develop some leadership skills and provide that leadership to help move forward, and they take on that responsibility of the job and have such a pride in developing that leadership. So again, what does that bring? What does Waypoint bring to us? Bring to you? We look after a lot of the job training. I mean, certainly there's some training that comes from the town that needs to happen. There's some of the onboarding stuff that would need to happen through the town. But we do the daily communications with the cleaners. We make sure that the equipment, we help with the problem solving. We support the clients with their tasks. We help them with some of the transportation if there's needs. We look at developing the routes with the communities and to make sure that everybody's got what is needed for your community. So, and again, the person that I'm involved with the town of Penetang has direct communication with me on a regular basis. So if there's a concern, they can reach out and we can look after that right away. And I'm clicking on the table, sorry. So thank you. That's our presentation. I hope that the town of Midland will consider thinking about their transitional program.
I was just going to add one last piece to that. So part of the role is that it is a transitional role for the client, so that the goal is that after this skill building experience, they have some references so that they can actually go and be gainfully employed and contribute more to the community. But we also notice that there becomes more of a pride for community. So it might be somebody that didn't know much about their community, and we find that they actually start to care more about what's going on downtown and what it looks like and what's happening because they're more responsible for it. So I think it really gives them a better sense of community as well and belonging.
Thank you.
We have some business cards and flyers, so we're just going to leave them on the table there. So if anybody wanted to get more information later, please feel free to reach out to either one of us, and we don't mind answering further questions.
Okay, yeah, don't go too far. Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to open the floor for comments or questions. Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I'm not sure why town of Midland hasn't been a part of this. If you've been in the neighboring community for 20 years, that seems wild to me, but I think it's an interesting program. I think the ability to have people develop leadership skills within the program is unique, and I really do like that. I had the opportunity to have a contract in that building and see your employment specialists at Hero Center train youth in a hub cafe. I got my coffee there weekly. So I've seen how supportive the Hero Center is in their ability to transfer skills. And I think that this program would be an extension of that. I would be happy to see it. I also am just glad that you came to present to us so we have the opportunity to even learn about this, because it's not something I even knew was happening in Penetang. And I'm glad that Midland maybe hopefully can be a part of it. I would love to see that and see it as maybe our ability to join a wraparound service and have that happen. So thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Councillor East.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. I really love the presentation. I love the idea of giving people value in themselves. And what I believe that you're doing is actually creating value within themselves and self-esteem. I think this is a great idea because you're almost bridging the gap between a resume that might get overlooked, especially if it was applied through a town per se. I think this is a great opportunity, especially when, you know, we have people downtown that have absolutely no intention of ever working, whereas there's a lot of people that do want to work. So what we're doing is we're providing an opportunity for them to grow in themselves. So I think this is a great opportunity, especially if you want to work, to have an opportunity to work, especially for the town. So I think that's a great idea.
Councillor Meredith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost, through you to you two ladies. Thank you very much for presenting. You did come to the BIA and presented to the BIA, and they're very much interested in your program. I know we had an extensive conversation afterwards. You left. It just we already had our budget set out for 2024, but I'm not sure if the manager Katerina reached out to you or did a follow up. But we are definitely interested in possibly doing something in 2025 once, and we'll be talking about budgets soon with the BIA, and if Midland can partner up, possibly getting the full, 4 employees, 2 and 2 in a full time would be great. But I know the BIA's limited in what they can do, but I know there's some options of that we were playing around with some numbers. So love the program. It gives some people that wouldn't have a chance to get into the employment market a very good opportunity here, and I think it's just a stepping stone for them to progress. Much needed. Thank you very much.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy. Through you, Deputy. Thank you for the presentation. I was aware of this program. Just my question is, does this program exist for the private sector as well, or it's only for the towns?
Sorry, can I ask you to ask it a bit louder? The fan's gone in behind us and we missed.
So my question was, well, thank you for the presentation. The program, it exists only for the towns, or is it also for the private sector as well?
At this point, we don't typically do the private sector. At one time, we had an odd job squad as well. And we did do a lot of work in the community where community residents could call us, and we would have an odd job squad go around to the houses and do work. But through COVID, that sort of dissolved and we didn't get it back up and running. And again, when we're looking at people's goals and what they're looking to do, we haven't had that interest at this point. So we've sort of backed up a wee bit in getting that re-engaged right now. And to be honest, I wasn't here at the beginning of spring to get that up and going, because I did have another organization ask me about it, but I was away on vacation, so I couldn't make that happen.
Well, just, but to add, as far as private businesses go, because we are actively helping people to find gainful employment, we're definitely open to partnerships with any local businesses that would like to work with us to help to find suitable fits through our clientele. Absolutely. And we would provide some support to them, not necessarily as intensive as with the town, but with each business, we can work out what that looks like, and potentially we could be able to provide that background support to help somebody to get back into the workforce.
And again, sorry, that's more of on an individual basis too, is that we're looking at, we do a lot of individual counseling with people to get back to work. And so we do have some employers that we work with on a regular basis that are looking to have us bring our clients in and have them start the job. So, yeah.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you to Deputy Mayor Post. I just want to comment, thank you for your presentation, and comment that the Hero Center is their name in many aspects of your work that you deliver. Could you just run by us a scenario of if we do go with this program, would it be Midland residents that would be assigned to the work here? And like, would they report, how they would start and report and that sort of thing, please?
So typically, I will say that Penetang doesn't necessarily have all Penetang residents, because we haven't necessarily had that. But we do try to get people who are in the community, so it makes it easier for them to get there. Because again, transportation can be an issue for many people who haven't worked. So certainly we do try to make sure that we've got people who are living in the same community. So whether it be Penetang, whether it's Midland, we would definitely be trying to make that happen. Again, we want to make it that it's easy for them to access. And we also want to be able to make sure that they're able to get to the job. And if I can ask you one more, the second part of your question again?
Certainly. Midland decides to take part in this program. So does Waypoint work with the town? Do they report to the town or to their Hero Center?
So both.
Worker?
So it is, the people are town employees, and there is a person in Penetang that they report to who is with the town of Penetang. But we provide the daily support as well. So we go back and forth between the town manager. They are town employees. So that is certainly something that we look at doing, where they get the direction from the town, and then we support that.
Thank you.
Councillor Downer.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, ladies. I see this as a chance to make a real change in someone's life. I think it's admirable, and I congratulate you on your venture, and I will support this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor Gordon.
Thanks for coming to the deputation tonight. When you first approached me about it, I'm like, you got to get in front of council before the summer break. We got to hear this. This is incredible. I too am like, I never heard of this. This has been silently happening in Penetanguishene for all these years. I've sometimes wondered, how the heck do they keep the streets so clean? Because I don't see the town staff walking around. But clearly, you guys have take credit for that. So good for you. I'd love to see this in Midland. I guess my only cautionary question, probably for HR, and this is something I'd spoken to you about, was because we're very unionized. You know, would this, you know, obstruct any of our collective agreements with the way our staffing structure is in the municipality by hiring folks to do this outside of our municipal employees? Because some of this work, well, arguably all of this work right now is done by largely union employees. So even though this is a different kind of program with a different demographic, you know, we're not just going to like some labor company and hiring some people to fill in. These are folks that experience challenges, whether, you know, they're intellectual or otherwise. So I'm just wondering from maybe the HR perspective, is this a showstopper, or can you think of creative ways that could work with our union staff that, you know, would give us labor peace, but also allow us to support a really wholesome program like this and the very unique individuals that it would attract?
To Deputy Mayor Prost, to Mayor, I think we could look at what Penetang's doing. First of all, they are unionized as well, so I can definitely see that they probably have had those obstacles that they've jumped over. So I'm certain we could look into it and see what we can come up with.
So just in follow-up then, this would be a service level request that would hit our budget in the fall, or more likely early winter, realistically. I keep hoping it's going to be the fall, but we are making progress. We are making progress, Lindsay. But realistically, you know, December-ish, when we get the draft budget, this could be a service level request that any of us put in, and it sounds like somebody's going to. And that would be something that then staff would take away, cost out, look at the feasibility, talk to Penetang Machine after it's hit the books that we've actually requested it, figure out how we can implement it here, and then put it into the math for next year's budget and see if we can pull it off without, you know, all the other juggling we try and do to keep our tax rate at or below the rate of inflation. So I fully support this. So clearly I've asked you to come here and present to council. I think it's a great, wonderful idea. If Penetang Machine can do it, then by God, we can. We just need to try and, you know, make the numbers work. And this could be even a joint venture we do with our BA, because that's something unique to us, you know, where we co-fund it. And so I really like where Councillor Emeritus was going. It sounds like the machine's already been working at the BIA level. So although we're not going to see your team hit the streets in the next 2 weeks, this sounds like a 2025 initiative very worthy of debate and discussion at budget time, and I would welcome that opportunity. So thank you for coming tonight and educating us.
Okay. Just like for the HR piece, just to add, our clients would be Town of Midland employees, but it would be on a temporary contract basis. But they would be employed by the Town of Midland. So I imagine they would probably be part of the union for the brief period they were here,
No,
but no, they're not. Never mind,
union,
sorry.
But they do get the Town of Penetang employees that are there. They actually get to enroll in the pension for the year that they're part of. And they've been a part of that. And then they also do the actual they go through the whole interview process, everything. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we support them. So what we do is we look at having a number of candidates who are wanting the position. They go through the actual interview process. We, again, help them to prepare, and so that they can be looked at and then decided upon on who does what and who moves forward with the positions at that given time. And again, like I said, we're looking at now where we've changed it so that we're looking at it being every 6 months as opposed to once a year, just so that we can have people develop the leadership skills. It's probably a little bit more onerous with having to do interviewing twice a year instead of once a year, but it's 2 people instead of 4 at one given time.
So I think we could take this for sure aside and have further conversations. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, don't go anywhere yet. Councillor Ball has a follow-up.
That's okay. Mayor Gordon touched on it. I was just going to speak to the collaboration with the BIA, and hopefully we can joint fund that. And I'm hoping maybe we can do that before budget, but we'll see how that goes.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, if you're still following along, we're at 16, committee, local board delegation or memo. There were none. 17, reports and other items withdrawn from the consent agenda for council's consideration includes presentations by consultants regarding a report under consideration. 17.1 CSR-2024-59 Automated Speed Enforcement Administrative Penalties Program. I'll read the motion and then I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. That staff report CSR-2024-59 Automated Speed Enforcement Administrative Penalty Program dated June 12, 2024 be received, and that council authorize and direct staff to proceed as necessary to implement an automated speed enforcement program pilot for a period of 2 years. So can I get a mover and a seconder for this, please? Councillor East. Mayor Gordon. Okay, I'd like to open the floor for conversation about this. Maybe Julie?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I do have a short presentation for the benefit of council and the members of the group here tonight and online. So I'll run through it as quickly as I can, and then we can open up for sorry. Is that better? Okay. So I'll run through the presentation fairly quickly, and then I'll open the floor to questions, and hopefully I can give you some information. This is an initial report, simply seeking direction. So the short presentation that I've got is to supplement the report that is already submitted to council and on the agenda and available to the members of public. And it's to provide further information and seek direction from council as set out in the report already. Next slide. So in their strategic priorities, council has identified town safety as one of their priorities. An ASC program would require the town, an ASC program would assist in the enhancement of town safety in that cameras would be installed that would hopefully attempt to modify driver behavior and slow traffic in high impact areas such as community safety zones and school zones. That would assist in making those areas of town much safer. So cameras would be installed, tickets would be issued to motorists with the hope that the speed fines would move traffic and operators and owners to a behavior modification to slow and to make our streets safer. The next slide, please. The SEO program would require town staff to undertake a number of activities to move it forward. Some of these are identified on the screen above. It's not exhaustive and require a significant accomplishment in order to implement the program. It would take a number of months. I am suggesting that it would be minimally year-end, probably Q1, maybe even Q2 of next year before a full program implementation would be seen. That includes the installation of the cameras. Next slide, please. During the investigation stage, I and my team of people identified 3 options to move this matter forward. We could contract service out, and there's a number of options identified in the staff report, 3 to be exact. We could develop and implement our own program. This option would require a much longer time and time commitment to implement and a significant capital investment on the part of the town by way of investments in staffing and capital funds. Or the third option would be to continue as we are continuing and looking to our OPP partners to enforce speed. In looking forward to this program, option 1 is being recommended by staff. It's further recommended by staff that we look at the option of partnering with the town of Newmarket and their program as the most, option 3 is the recommended option. And we're further recommending that the town of Newmarket program that's identified in the staff report be chosen. It is the most cost effective and provides the most services to the town to reduce what the town would be required to do to implement the program. And we're also recommending a pilot program for this of 2-year period, which would take us to the end of this council term. If this council wishes to move it into a 3-year term, we could also do that, but it would take it into the next council. Next slide. So essentially, the financial impact to the town of Midland with the town of Newmarket program would be an annual lease, which we've discussed in closed, as well as contracted services, which would see the first $20 of every ticket being paid to the town of Newmarket for the services that they would provide. Once this is applied, the revenue generated would be minimally a $35 amount to the town of Midland by way of revenue. From that revenue, we would have to investigate a further reduction for some of the costs that we would incur, such as mandatory signage, a communication plan, power supply to the cameras, which would probably be a partnership with NT Power. And then there would be some minimal staffing costs, such as the communications team, some of our CXO team to receive payments of some of the fines, and then the preparation and implementation of a bylaw and policy that would then come before council, hopefully this fall, so that we could further implement the rest of the requirements of the plan. Next slide, please. If council provides direction, staff would then move forward with the next step with the intention of returning to council in late September, perhaps October, with further information and an administrative penalties bylaw and required policies. Data would be compiled by our engineering department in the coming weeks with respect to the traffic in the various areas. This data would then also be used to develop a business plan that could be presented to council in the fall or late fall, and would provide further information to council about the speed patterns and possible revenue generation. Revenue generation at this point is not something that we can provide because we don't have the full costing estimates of some of the other issues that I've identified. But with further investigation, we could come back to council with a more fulsome report and a full business plan. So at this point, town staff is looking for direction to move forward with a program, obtain further information, and look at moving forward with the town of Newmarket. And then we would come back to council in the fall with a further business plan. With that, I'll open the floor to any questions that council may have.
Thank you for all that information. Councillor Meredith.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Prost. I think the program, the pilot project is to me, it sounds good with very little cost to the town of Midland and partnering with Newmarket. So I would be in favor of the 2-year pilot project as we've heard today and in closed. Thank you.
Councillor East.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I would be in support of partnering up with that municipality and moving forward with that project.
Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I'm so excited to see this report here. It feels like we've been talking about this for 2 years because we have. There's just so many moving parts to get this thing forward. I love the way that we're approaching this with the AMPS program rather than sending tickets through the court system, because we see the backlog in the courts and the 50% abandon rate basically of prosecutors. It's just not proceeding with the tickets. So it really has no effect and really on deterrence because people are getting their tickets either pled down or thrown out. And at the end of the day, even though we're talking about revenue, one of the things the MTO has been adamant about, and I subscribe to this belief, that this isn't, as much as this has the potential to be a revenue generator, and in my heart I hope we don't make a penny. I hope we just break even, because that means everyone's driving the speed limit through a school zone, for heaven's sake. But we all know that's not really the case. We all are guilty of speeding at some point. So I've gone on record calling it a stupid tax. And one day I'll get a ticket too, because I know I will not be paying attention and go through, poof, there's a picture of my license plate. So the other key takeaway is that the driver is not the one that's necessarily penalized in these type of photo radar scenarios. It's the registered owner of the car. But, you know, in my case where I hold the ownership for all of my kids' cars and everything, so they save on insurance, I know who's driving that vehicle. So I'll go and, you know, deal with that when the ticket comes in the mail with my name on it. But these are the small prices I think as a society we got to pay for safety on our roads. The caveats that we can only install these in community safety zones where the fines are doubled, or school zones, fines are doubled, or roadways under 80 kilometers an hour, which basically is all of the town of Midland. So we have a lot of community safety zones already, some of which may not even apply. I mean, realistically, I'm going to call it Cook Drive, for example. We did a community safety zone in Cook Drive, quite frankly, to appease residents because, you know, the perception was that people were speeding on their narrow street and making it dangerous for people. But the evidence that we collected with our signage, you know, counters and everything didn't support the perception. Fourth is another example of that. But it doesn't mean we just ignore it. Oh, there's no science, forget about you. We made these community safety zones, or we dropped the speed limit as we have in several streets around the municipality, even sleepy little Lakewood Drive, you know, which basically only the residents are on, and the Amazon driver. So this is an opportunity for us to put cameras in places that have high volume, high impact, near schools primarily, slow people down, change driving behaviors, absolutely pay for the system because, you know, believe me, the gap between option A we could have signed up with and option B is like the Grand Canyon. This is totally the bargain. And that's what kind of thing we were talking about in camera. So this is the way to go for us. And it's minimal outset of costs, high, so, you know, low outset of costs, high yield in changing driving behavior. And heck, if we can make a few dollars beyond just paying and breaking even, there's revenue that we can bring into the town for helping, you know, bring the taxes down, or we can funnel some of it into further traffic calming efforts in our municipality. Maybe designing and building some more expensive forms of traffic calming beyond just passive stuff that takes a lot of capital that would normally be beyond us, and it could be funded by the stupid tax. So like that's something that, you know, I've been an advocate for the past couple of years. I know it's taken us a while to get to this report, but I'm so happy that it's here now and that we're pursuing the AMPS program, because it unlocks the ability for the municipality to keep the funds from these tickets rather than going to the province and, you know, half of them getting abandoned or pled down. And anyway, so bravo. I know it's been a lot of work. I know North Simcoe municipalities are all working in tandem right now. I think we're all looking at the same solution. So it's going to be a North Simcoe solution, and it's partnering with Newmarket, who we already have deep ties with NT Power, who we sold our PUC to. So there's just so many synergies in here, and I see it's a win-win-win-win-win, and clearly I wholeheartedly support this, and I can't wait to see those signs go up, you know, 3 months in advance saying automatic speed enforcement cameras coming soon. So that's something else we have to do, is advertise well in advance. So it's really, and they have to change the sign to camera in effect when we actually have the camera there. The police don't have to do this when they set up radar. They don't tell you 3 months ahead of time there's going to be a cop, you know, at Kindred. We all know that. And they certainly don't have to put a sign down the road saying, oh, I'm here doing radar. Waze will tell you if people tag them. But some of the restrictions that are put on the municipality seem a little archaic, but they are what they are for now. We'll play within the rules from the MTO, and we'll change some driving behaviors for the better in our community. And so I wholeheartedly support this.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. We still have a few hands up. I'm going to start with Councillor Downer.
Yes, thank you. Well, I have no choice but to support this. I wanted speed limit sign lowered, but council through its wisdom decided that that wasn't the way to go. I think what we're doing here is we're taking pressure off the OPP, who we're paying to enforce this legislation, and I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm kind of pushed into a corner here. We've tried everything we can to reduce speed. It's not working. Thank God nobody's been seriously injured or killed that I know of, and I guess it's worth a try. But I think we're making a mistake on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downer. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy. So I'm also in the favor of the Newmarket program we're probably leaning towards. will be one step closer to the strategic vision our CEO has set, and probably will help the CFO handle the reserve on this. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Anything that makes Midland safer, I'm in support of. The mayor did answer one of my questions, which was addressing the pre-notice to the community. They'll have plenty of time to practice driving at the posted speed limit. But my question is, can the cameras only be in a community safety zone?
Through your worship, or Deputy Mayor, to Councillor McDonald. Currently, the legislation provides that we can install these in both community safety zones and school zones at present. Those zones as well also allow for a double fine. So normally a speed fine would be a certain amount per kilometer over. They double within those zones. So because those are the areas that are of most concern, given the young children and the pedestrian traffic, that's where they've initiated this program to begin with. So yes, at this point, that's where we would be looking to institute our program. And I do want to say that the emphasis on this program should really be safety and behavior modification as opposed to revenue generation. But hopefully, you know, it's a win-win situation all the way around, but it is a behavior modification and safety program at its outset. I do also want to seek direction from council if they can provide it. We have 8 community safety zones that are identified in this report that we would want to look at direction as to which ones are of biggest concern so that we can then look at obtaining data that I can then put into a further staff report for this fall, showing a much better kind of business plan for you. So if there are identified zones that are listed in those ones in the staff report, that would be very helpful to staff as well.
So would we be looking for an amendment or an addition to this motion? No.
I don't think we're looking for an amendment to the motion, but we would be looking for this at a future period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So if we don't have any more questions or comments, you've heard the motion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. (17.2) CSR 2024-61 Young Street Bike Facilities. The staff report CSR 2024-61 Young Street Bike Facilities dated June 12, 2024 be received, and 1, that council endorse the recommended bike facility design on Young Street as outlined in the report for the purposes of design completion to be incorporated into the Young Street reconstruction project, and that council approve the budget for the Young Street reconstruction project as part of the 2025 budget process. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Ball and Councillor East. And open for discussion. Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I figured I'd go first because I think I'm one of the people that probably threw the rock, you know, in the machine at our last opportunity to approve this by suggesting, hey, where's the 4-lane option, right? Which is the cheapest one. And I just want to say that on its face, you know, it seems like it's a great idea. You know, just paint after all. Let's get more cars moving through. And, you know, I already debated or put my case forward at the time as to why I thought it should be on the report. But since then, we've had the emails, the letters. I had my straw poll running on the website. I went to the Good Roads you know, I've already talked about this when Herb from the Active Transportation pitched to us. I went to Good Roads and I got educated by the guy that wrote the book, literally, on complete streets and urban design. And I've actually since, because it is bike month, I bought an e-mountain bike. So did my wife, to try and be more active in our transportation. And I've been exploring our trails and our bike paths and our bike lanes. And I never did that before. I mean, really infrequently, but I've really been pouring the kilometers on this thing because I can now. And I can see the value and the merit and the safety argument. And at the end of the day, the MTO says, if you're going to put your road back together, this is how you do it. And we have the ability to go, well, you know, what does the MTO know? We're doing it our way. We could do that until the first kids hit or the first adults hit. And then I can tell you how that litigation is going to end up. Oh, you didn't follow the guidelines from the MTO. Can you explain to us why you did that? Oh, it's to save money because the mayor was cheap and he wanted to keep taxes down. So, and then we end up having to put them all in and pay huge damages. And, you know, not to mention we'd be on the news as the only municipality in Canada that's, you know, getting rid of bike lanes. Not to mention all the real science and safety advantages to slowing traffic down by narrowing lanes, passive traffic calming, by making the bike lanes wider, again, making it more safe and inviting, and buffering them with these bollards now, which I still wish we didn't have to do, but the science says we do. And you're not going to hear me ever sitting up here arguing against science. So, you know, option 3, buffered bike lane with flexible bollards is the staff recommendation based on the volume of community feedback. What I've since learned on my own exploration and my own personal experiences now, I have absolutely no reservations in supporting option 3. My only question is, if we pass option 3 and we redo the road the way it is now, narrowing it and adding the buffers, and we accept the cost of removing these things every fall and putting them back in the spring, that's just the way it is. What does that mean to the other roads where we have painted bike lanes? Does this now set a precedent that's going to see a budget ask for us to do Hugel and every other road that has bike lanes without bollards? Is the trigger only when we rip it up and redo it, kind of like the building code when you do something in your house? Or is it once you pass it once, does it now open Pandora's box and then all the expenses that go with it? That's my one unanswered question. And I thought I'd save it as a gotcha question today. I didn't ask Mitch in advance, although I suspect he knows it was coming. I'd really like to know that because that would help me feel better. And, you know, around option 3, knowing that we can then make decisions as if we rip up other roads that have bike lanes in our community.
Through Deputy Mayor Prost to Mayor Gordon. Yeah, you're somewhat correct. It's similar to the building code in the fashion that it's grandfathered in because it met the standards at the time of construction. There's no requirement for us, say if we do this, to go back to Hugel next year and put bollards in. When the time comes to do some work on Hugel, that's when we'll have that discussion, just like we are on Yonge Street. It's an opportunity to upgrade it at the time that we're there, minimize disruption to the town and whatnot. So there's no immediate requirement for us to go back to other streets at this time.
Follow up?
Thanks. So my one other one was in one of the pictures that was in the first report showed these bollards installed on what looked like parking cement things anyway, with little places for forklifts or whatever. Is that something we can consider that would be less labor intensive than screwing in these things into a million holes along the street, knowing that there's going to be big gaps where we can't have bollards because there's so many entrances and exits from businesses and stuff. It's not like it's going to be a straight line of bollards. There's going to be all kinds of big gaps. Would it make more sense to put them on these movable parking barrier thingies? We could pick up with 5 bollards on it or 3 bollards, than having all these little screw holes. Is that something that's being contemplated?
Through Deputy Mayor Prost, Mayor Gordon. Yeah, that's something that we have to figure out as we get through the detailed design. It was in the report as an example of an additional safety feature as far as a barrier to cyclists, things like concrete barriers, the removable barriers that you're speaking about, even small garden beds can be used. So we'll investigate that as we get through the detailed design. And you still have to consider those, even the ones shown in that picture, they're not loosely just sitting there. They're likely pinned to the asphalt as well, so they don't move around if they get hit with vehicles and things like that. So the savings could potentially be minimal, but the level of protection to a cyclist is improved. So we'll investigate and put those where we can. As you mentioned, there are there's lots of entrances to consider on Yonge Street. So one design won't fit the entire corridor door. We'll have different spacings, we'll have different features, and that's ultimately the next step as if we get direction tonight from council. That's where we'll go over the next couple months.
Councillor East.
I agree with Bill on option 3 as well. Going back to 4 lanes would just increase the speed on Yonge Street as it is. And what we're trying to do is calm the speed. So going back to 4 lanes would just increase more speed. The bollards will be the way to go, especially speaking in terms of legal cases. So it's a must. So you would have my support in option 3.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. As everyone knows, I was really pushing for that trail, but on the north side, it doesn't look feasible at all. So that's unfortunate. And I have been in lengthy discussions with people who are using the bike lanes on a daily basis and the Active Transportation Committee, and they have pointed out some flaws in having just one side of the road to be able to bike on. So I am here to listen to what people want, and they are confident in the bollard option. So I am supporting it. I would love to see something a little prettier like option 6, but obviously that astronomical cost is not happening at this time. Do you have the bollard here? I was hoping that you were going to bring it. Oh, maybe does it have to be yellow?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. The color yellow doesn't have to be, but it does have to have reflectivity, high visibility markings on it. So that's again something that will get flushed out through the detailed design, the type of bollard, if there's any bike symbols on it, things like that. So we're not fully set on yellow, but it's the front runner at the moment.
I'm confident in your team, so I will love to see the finished product, and hopefully this eliminates the risk that's on Yonge Street, because I know driving beside people that are biking there, I'm feeling a little nervous for them on the side of the road with all the cars. So I think the separation is key.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy. So I'm in the favor of anything that's probably going to be related to, having a bike lane. Just to kind of throw some numbers out, if we do choose to have side, like option 4, in a 10-year use, it's 3 cents a resident. Option 5 is 2 cents a resident in 10-year use. Option 6 is 9 cents per resident. Now, average person spends about $4 on a cell phone with the plan. So just to kind of throw some numbers out, if we're looking at it from a money perspective, it's not a lot based on a 10-year use. If we go with option 4, 5, and 6, just looking at just doing the bollard option, I just feel we want something, but we just want it half. We don't want to spend the money. So let's not do it HA. Let's do it full. I recommend either going option 4, 5, or 6. But if we want to do it, the cheapest option with the bollards, which aesthetically it's not going to look good in the long run. It's not going to be. I guess it's going to be labor intensive, removing it and bring it back every springtime. Cost of that over the years will go up, where option 4, 5, or 6, those costs will always be the same. So I'm in the favor of option 4, 5, or 6. Specifically option 5 because it's on the school side, and the trail, I guess the bike lane would be on the school side. But just to kind of lay that out, that option is 3 cents a resident per year based on a 10-year. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, option 4 has the trail on the north side with the school. option 5, the trails on the south side, opposite the school.
Mayor Gordon.
Thanks, Councillor Patel. I don't disagree that option 3 is more of like a temporary, flexible, pun intended, solution for now. I think that option 4, 5, and 6 are aspirational, and I don't disagree that they would be nice to have on that street. And quite frankly, nothing says that, if we can find funding, maybe with the new federal government who makes us a priority, or the province wants to avail them, if we can avail ourselves of some new infrastructure funding for bike lanes and things like that, we could very easily, after we've ripped up the street and changed the infrastructure, which is why we're doing it after all, and repaving it, which we have to do no matter what, because we're ripping the street up. We could, if we, got a grant for $5 or $10 million, very easily go and do what we have to do to all those property owners' front yards, such as they are, and the retaining walls and moving the hydro poles and all the things that would be right in the middle of the bike lane. There's a ton of work that would have to do to make that happen. But if we planned to that and found a funding source, nothing says, in 6 or 8 years, if any of us have any say in it, or next councils could actually make a project to resurface or redo the north side of the street, for example, to make that trail. So it's not like we're shutting the door not forever. We're just saying we don't have the dough right now. Let's start with what the minimum requirements are from the MTO, which is the bollard requirement. And maybe let's look for funding sources, perhaps even within what's left of our term, to see if there's an option by the time we actually do the digging to help pay for option 4, 5, and 6. Because it's not like, Mitch is going to go and procure these bollards and leave them in a warehouse for a while. This is going to take a year or two to get going. So maybe that's a challenge to council. Can we find any money as we head into a federal election in the next year, or potentially the provincial election, and then the next, within the next year or two? Maybe there's a funding opportunity that could make this more affordable. So I'd be open to revisiting if the funds were there. But right now, to me, the most value for the buck that, allows us to do what's minimally required, and offers a new level of safety to the kids that use the street and all the things that we've heard from the parents and the schools. Option 3, to me, I'm not persuaded to sway from that, but I would be open to option 4, 5, or even option 6 at some point if we could find some more funding. So I like where you're thinking. I just don't know if we have the pockets for it right now.
Follow-up.
So thank you, Deputy. Yeah, as long as we don't close our doors on option 4, 5, or 6 as a permanent, and that would be option 6 would be probably the way of the future, how we're promoting active lifestyles, and there's going to be more mountain e-bikes on the road. We already have 2, so we could have 4. Thank you.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I believe that option 6 is also the best one. This isn't something we really explored before. In terms of that, I know, Mitch, you and I talked about that a little bit when we were talking about the multi-use trail last time. But for the utility relocation, I know at this point we haven't gone into any sort of contracts with NT Power to go towards that, but Yonge Street is flagged as something that needs to be an updated infrastructure. Can we maybe possibly see if they are willing to bring any funds to the table when they have all this dug up? And my next question is also about the sewer, storm and sanitary sewers. Are any of those flagged in the near future or a 10-year plan to be replaced at all?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Ball. So to answer your first question, we've had some initial conversations with NT Power. They are, to my understanding, going through a power needs analysis later this year and into next year. So far, they haven't committed to doing any upgrades or needing any upgrades on Yonge Street. They have confirmed that the poles on Yonge Street currently are in good health. And if there's no need for power, there's no need for them to do anything. So there is a possibility there could be something worked out in the future, but it's very uncertain if anything would ever happen. And the second part of your question?
If the storm or sewers were flagged to be fixed at any point within 10 years?
So as part of the Young Street project, from essentially Noreen Street to Mildred Street is a full recon of the sanitary and the water system. The storm system has been inspected and is in good condition. We can save some money, leave it where it is. Depending on which option is chosen as identified in the report, the options 4, 5,
Option 6, sorry,
yeah,
you
for
can speak
option
to that
6,
one.
there would need to be modifications to the storm system, as well as the sanitary system on the west end of the project, because there would be conflicts with the curb alignment. So it would be a full recon then at that point. That's why the cost is significantly higher.
And that would be something that we would be looking at when normally.
In our opinion, that the storm is currently not even on the 10-year plan.
Okay, go.
Yes, follow up as well. If we were to do the bollards as Mayor Gordon suggested, is there a significant cost to doing option 6 at a later time? Or is this something that can be done after the reconstruction? Or would it be higher cost because we're not going to be able to relocate any of these things?
If I might answer that through the Deputy Mayor. Of course, option 6 could be adopted as an additional thing to gain option 6 at a future time, but there's still considerable dollars that would have to go there. There might be some minor modification to what you do now, but most of it would happen at the west end. But it's, as Mitch has pointed out in your report, it's very expensive because of the cross-sectional width of the right-of-way to get all of these things in there. And there'd probably be some property acquisition as well as storm sewer work. And so it's hard to predict exactly, but it's a significant additional effort and cost. Not impossible to do in the future, but you'd have to have the pockets to do it, the money to do it.
Is there a possibility to have bollards just where that needs to be relocated and have track in other areas, or is it an all or nothing type of thing?
It wouldn't be recommended to have a cross-sectional shift partway through the road. Recommendation, if you go with option 4, 5, or 6, is to be consistent all the way through.
Councillor Downer, then Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm ready to go with the staff recommendation of number 3. So I don't know why we're beating this thing to death.
Because you're not here.
Yeah.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Sorry to prolong your agony, Councillor Downer, but I did struggle with this decision because I thought the multi-use trail was the way to go. And then the more I studied it, I realized the challenges. If Yonge Street had another 10 feet on each side, it would be easy, right? I didn't like the idea of having to lose so many trees. One of the options was losing trees and then expropriating some properties. I don't think we'd be too popular with that. And then I was kind of pacified by the fact that some of the cyclists brought to my attention that multi-use trails aren't that favorable to some cyclists. So I am going to support the bollards, but I am going to challenge you with the design that the downtown Midland just did with their bollards. So you have to up your bollards to look better than theirs now.
Mr. Sobel's face.
The question is, are you up for the challenge?
Always.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Mayor Gordon has a follow-up.
Sorry, just a quick one that was brought to my attention that I haven't asked yet. How is this going to impede the county's ability with their arms to get people's garbage? And whoever's going to do the recycling once that takes over to the producer responsibility. I'm just concerned that the cadence of these things is not going to be, as I alluded to earlier, even because there's so many entrances and exits, residential and commercial on Yonge. There'll be large gaps where there isn't any bollard, I assume. But what about the places where they are a little more clustered? Will we face any wrath from the county or whoever is going to be collecting recycling in a couple of years?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Gordon, you mean specifically to option 3 with the flexible bollards? So we'll confirm with the county through our detailed design, but based on our preliminary review, their equipment has the ability to reach up to 8 feet. The bike lane is narrower than that. The only major negative is that currently the waste trucks pull into the bike lane somewhat out of the traveled lane. Now they'll have to stop in it, and vehicles would have to go around them and deal with it accordingly. But as far as the spacing and the reach of the machine, we believe we can design around that.
Councillor Patel.
So I had the same question as the mayor with the garbage cans. I mean, we have some days high winds. So if someone puts it where the bollard's not there, the wind moves the garbage can. How is the garbage truck going to reach that? Is it going to damage the bollards? Are we going to be constantly replacing them? Thank you.
Your Deputy Mayor to Councillor Patel. The bollard that we're looking at so far has been significantly tested with hundreds of vehicle impacts, and is showing that after 200 to 300 direct vehicle impacts at 80 kilometers an hour, there's no major damage to them other than maybe some black rubber marks and things like that. So in the worst case scenario that the garbage machine had to directly extend its arm over the bollard would just bend out of the way and then it would come back up afterward. I wouldn't expect any significant issues.
Follow up, Councillor Ball.
Yes, I think talking about impeding traffic is not something we've really talked about now, and that just brought up. I think that's more of a reason to look at option 6. I know it is more expensive and it is the most expensive option, but if we're going to do this once, we should do it right. And if we realize that all these people are going to complain about the garbage truck now stopping and they can't get to work on time and their school, it actually, I wanted town of Midland had a car parked doing maintenance at Mundy's Bay School a few weeks ago, and just that truck blocked my ability to see people walking from the school on 8th and 7th. And I think having a garbage truck would seriously impede that safety as well. So I'm more inclined to want to spend the money when we have the road ripped up than realize that we did something wrong and have to backtrack.
Through Deputy Mayor Councillor Ball. In that scenario, use of the center third lane is acceptable to go around garbage facilities and stopped in construction facilities. That's acceptable. But I just wanted to also point out that in options 3 through 6, the same case would be even if we went with the cycle tracks, there's nowhere for the garbage truck. It stops in the lane because you've taken the bike lane off of the roadway itself. So the only way that so it's the same situation in every scenario.
Okay, we've had lots of discussion. Councillor Meredith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. One question, or a few questions actually. So we're talking about the litigation of this, and if someone were to get struck by a car currently in the bike lane would be different than after this construction is done. It would be a different outcome in court in our liability. And how does that differ?
If I could, Madam Chair, to Councillor Meredith, the difference is we are now taking the opportunity to reconstruct. So currently we're grandfathered with the approach that the design is, but when we reconstruct, we'll have to reconstruct to the current standards. So if we reconstruct not to the current standards, that will be what's highlighted in any situation. The real problem would be whoever's struck. It's more than the court case, but the point here is, that after that happens, that terrible event happens, now we also take the hit, and as the mayor says, put the bollards in anyways, because that will be the outcome, and pay a big fine. so it won't be good. It's all about reconstruction. You have to reconstruct according to current rules. You know yourself, if you build a building, you don't build it to the 1956 building code, you build it to the current building code.
Thank you. So I like option 3, but I don't like the bollards. So there is an option here that you cannot have the bollards in option 3, but we'd be prone to liability, like what you just explained, correct? So what if we took the bike lanes out of Yonge Street, had the 3 lanes, and if a bike went up Yonge Street like we did in the old days, there was no bike lanes. We drove on the road. Someone got hit by a car. Is there liability there on the town?
I'm not your risk expert. Apparently, she's done for the evening and helped you out with the motion or the speed cameras. So I won't give you an absolute answer, but I would suggest that if you took them out, there would be lots of problems because you're now going against your approved master transportation multimodal master transportation plan. So that would be a problem. So you'd have to tell why you did that. And then you'd have to appease the people, the many people in town, including the mayor's wife who likes the bike lanes. And so I would suggest you're asking a hypothetical that we haven't addressed in the report, but we've certainly recommended against it.
Thank you. Most of the deputations who came to council prior to this basically left it as status quo. Leave it alone. It's fine as it is. I don't think the majority they're interested in safety, but there was no mention of bollards. But I'm not in favor of the bollards. I'd rather spend more money than have bollards. So I'm not in favor of option 3 whatsoever. I just think the bollards are going to be you're going to have a ton of complaints and issues, and then the maintenance as well is an ongoing added expense. So, frankly, that's where I'm sitting right now. And not only that is, this is primarily getting paid from the our taxpayer is going to fund this over the 10 years in capital plan. 25 years? Yeah, 25 years. So in 25 years, maybe CFO Barron can kind of put a cost estimate of what are we looking at over 25 years if we go for the option 4, maybe option 4. Just a quick, nothing crazy accurate, but just a roundabout figure.
Through Deputy Mayor Prost to Councillor Meredith. So I do have my handy debenture schedule up here. So option 4 is just over 12 million. I rounded to 12. Sorry, Mitch. I'll cut your budget a bit for you. And option 4 over 25 years is total cost of that with interest at say 5% is just over 21 million. And so that works out to about $850,000 a year in interest and principal payments. And 43% of that would be borne by the taxpayer. The other portion would be water and wastewater. As Mitch said, a portion of the water and sewer services do need to be replaced. And so, you're looking at about 365,000 or so a year to cover the debt for the tax base. And so that's just over 1%. Now, I should note that that's about a $90,000 increase over the proposed option 3. So, when you're spreading it out, as Councillor Patel mentioned, over, a 25-year term, it doesn't feel like such a big hit, right?
Yeah, thank you. I just, option 3 in the bollards and the litigation, that's why we have insurance. The town is insured for the purpose of accidents happening, trip and falls and so forth. I see Mr. Thompson shaking his head. Can you elaborate on that, Jake?
Through the deputy mayor, I would suggest that you don't do dangerous things contrary to the rules just because you got insurance.
I wouldn't be doing dangerous things. I would be following the law and the speed limit, but I'm just trying to put a reasoning for these bollards, and I know safety is our #1 priority here, but I'm still in favor of not having bollards, so that would force me to go to a more expensive option in the long term. Thank you. I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Ball.
I just wanted you to do the same thing for option 5 and 6, please. So option 5 is about $1 million less than option 4. And so that works out to annual payments, interest and debt repayment of $780,000. And again, roughly 43%, because again, we're changing the scope of the project. So I can't say that that's exactly the percentage we'll end up at. And we may be able to use some development charges as well, because now we're really expanding the service. But 43% of that would be $335,000 versus the $365,000. So a savings of $30,000 a year, roughly. And then option 5, sort of the most expensive option. Sorry, option 6.
Mayor Gordon, did you have a follow-up? Oh, so if you need a minute, Councillor McDonald? Yeah. Sorry.
So option 6, the total 25-year debt, the interest and debt repayment is just under 30 million when you add in the interest. The annual repayment is 1,185,000, and again, 43% of that is just over 500,000. So that would be the portion, 509,000, 510,000. So that would be the portion borne by the taxpayer, which would be just under 2% of your tax rate, 1.75% roughly annually.
Councillor Patel.
Through you, Deputy. Yeah, so that's kind of what I calculated was 2% as well. So, I mean, option 4, 5, 6, sometimes, happiness, cost, they can't relate. So we have to pick happiness maybe. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Options 4, 5, and 6 cost more, and if they were perfect, I would say spend the money to do it right, but it's still not going to be right. The multi-use trails aren't the best. The cycle track on both sides aren't the best. My question is, is it feasible to do the bollards from Yonge Street to Noreen to see how that goes? Because that's the part that we're going to be repaving. Or would we want to do the full stretch right off the bat?
So through Deputy Mayor to Councillor McDonald, so there was an option in the report, depending on the option that's chosen. Option 3 was one of them that does allow you to phase it in. We've reviewed the asphalt condition on what we'll call the west side of it, so from County Road 93 to Noreen Street, and we've determined there is life left in that asphalt. There's not an immediate need for us to go in and repave it next year like the rest of it. So you could defer that portion of the paving, and the bollard option would allow you to phase it in. And then you're not saving any money because you're pushing that $1.2 million to 5-6 years down the road, which could, grow to $1.5 million. But then at that time, you could put the bollards in on that portion. But if you go with option 4, 5, and 6, as I mentioned before to Councillor Ball, it's not recommended to shift partway through the roadway. It causes confusion, higher risk, and I wouldn't recommend it.
And you're not really recommending doing just partial in option 3 either?
It's an option that's in the report, yep. It defers it down the road, right? It saves 1.2 million today, which could be more in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, before I go to Councillor Ball and Mayor Gordon, I just want to say that I would like to see the bollards all the way up Yonge Street. I don't, other options sound wonderful, but like Councillor McDonald said, they're not going to be perfect. It's not going to necessarily be what we want, and it's too much money. I can't sit here today and put a 1 or 2% tax added automatically before we even start the budget every year. That's just far too much. So I'm in favor of the bollards all the way up Yonge Street. Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I agree that it's a huge cost on the taxpayer, so I can't support it right now, but I'm hoping with this we can maybe put staff direction to try to collaborate with some biking organizations or the County of Simcoe. We did just host a large biking event, and our Town of Midland booth was set up at the Butter Tart Festival beside a bike tent. Experience Biking of Simcoe County, or I can't exactly remember the perfect name, but there are a lot of bikers coming to our area, and this is a way of the future and a way to bring tourism dollars that could possibly offset the cost of this. So I know the project isn't going to require bollards all of a sudden, so that's something maybe that we can find funding for to offset that to our taxpayers, because there is a huge majority of people coming to this area to bike, and possibly some of them have deep pockets that want to see a cycle trail.
Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I think I like the conversation we're having, and I understand the pros and cons of both of them. The part I think I still struggle with the most is the the land use rights, like the private property ownership rights. Expropriating what little front lawn people have is, if you haven't driven down that section of Yonge and really paid attention to it, I have, because I wanted to really think about this. We already did work on this road, and it resulted in us putting these retaining walls in. And you'll see people's steps coming down from their house, and they've got a little bit of a lawn. Sometimes they don't, but it's almost right at the sidewalk now. Because this road doesn't have the normal road allowance for whatever reason, just is what it is, we would be taking people's property, what's left of their front lawn. There'd be houses where literally you'd step down out of your porch and be on this trail. And to me, it just doesn't sit right. I don't think that the greater good is served enough to go and start either buying people's property or just taking it from them, because we want to add this trail system that's also staggeringly more expensive. If at some point, much like we did planning the Big Dig, we can find a funding source and we can get the buy-in, people saying, yeah, I don't mind, I'm all for this. I'm willing to give up my front yard and step literally right onto this trail from my front door. If you could find enough people sign off on that willingly, where we're doing it with them, not to them, I'd be a proponent of it. But we haven't had that conversation. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want to go knocking on doors and say, hey, do you mind what if we took this land to put it in trail? I just can't, it doesn't make any sense to me. This solution right now is effectively what we have now. We're just putting the road back the way it is, except we're having to bring it up to the new standard, which unfortunately requires these, not super attractive bollards, but it does make it safer. And I've been assured, and I guess we'll see whether the advice was good or not, in a few years, that this is kind of like Field of Dreams, that we don't see a ton of use on the cycling on Yonge Street right now, but if you build it, they will come. If it feels safer, and it will be safer, and then we throw our automated speed enforcement cameras and narrower lanes and all the things we're going to do to Yonge Street, that'll probably be one of the safest roads in Midland, and we'll see wider acceptance and usage. So this is one of those things that can pay back in spades. And honestly, if we're still around in next term and opportunity knocks and funding, a bag of cash is, lavished upon us, staff find a grant, we could very easily talk about expropriation, buying these people's properties, however that works, and widening at one side at a time when we have the dough. I don't know that it's all or nothing right now. So I don't disagree that these are the great options, but I don't think that, this is the only time we could ever do it isn't a compelling argument right now, because it isn't. We rip up and redo roads all the time. I wouldn't want to do it 2 years later, but honestly, I don't think we're going to find that kind of funding a couple of years later. There's other capital needs we have, as we saw from, our capital and reserves deficit, not to mention other projects. I mean, just, we're always talking about, we get the RFP for the splash pad right now. That started off when I got the conversation going back in 2018 as like a $300,000 project. That thing's going to be $1 million, right? Probably more. And we're not even talking like a huge one. If I can get something like Penetang's, it's probably going to be triple the cost of what Penetang paid. And with that, I've already pledged to go out and shake the bushes and find private funds to help, reduce the draw on taxes. I'm a good salesman, but I don't think I can find private funding to help us do this project on Yonge Street. So, they're different animals, but they're expensive. And I think this is the meet you in the middle. We're basically doing the bare minimum required by law and actually adding safety to the people that do use that, which now I guess I've signed up to become one of them. Join the biking crowd. No spandex for me though. But, I just see this as being the responsible choice forward. Doing nothing, we can't do nothing. We have to do something. We're putting the road back together. This is basically doing the same thing, only with a new standard applied. It's like my stair railings at home are illegally low. If I was to ever redo them, I need to make them higher. So one day when I do pull a permit and redo part of my house, I'm going to have taller railings. Right now I can fall over it real easy. The new ones I won't be able to. That's just the way life is. So I really do appreciate the passion, and I love the way we're thinking about building out the infrastructure more. Again, I'm pretty ardent that option 3 right now, even though I'm not a big lover of these bollards, is the path forward for us for now. And let's work on a plan collectively to try and plan something in a 10-year capital plan to maybe look and see how cycle tourism is doing in North Simcoe. And then we'll have an economic driver to help us fund maybe the next step, which is seizing land and widening the road. So just my thoughts on it. I mean, we could probably go around circular on this thing forever, but at some point we'll call the question. And I kind of thought Councillor Downer might have said this already, but we may as well do a recorded vote on this because it is a big contentious issue for the town. And this isn't meant to paint anyone in a corner. Oh, we're going to do a recorded vote. I think it's just important that a decision of this magnitude, whether we made the right one or not, it's super clear in everyone's minds after they listen to our debate where we decided to put our marker on the board for this big decision.
Okay, before we do the recorded vote, I just wanted to ask about the bollards going all the way up Yonge Street. So the entire length of Yonge Street be done at the same time so that they can use the whole thing. Does that have to be added to this?
Option 3 include, you mean the entirety from William to, you mean King Street to 93. Option 3 includes the cost to do that.
Okay, Council, you've heard the question. Okay, Councillor Meredith and Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I just wanted to just reiterate, like the 4, 5, and 6, there's no way, after looking at the costs and the increase in the tax to the taxpayer, I can't fiscally be responsible for that for sure. I'm trying to get the tax rate down, not up. So I also like to thank Mitch for the report and coming back to council. I know that we steered you away the last time to come back with this report, and you actually gave us a few more options than before. So very thorough report, and I'm glad we had this discussion. I think it was important, and although it took a little bit longer, and it seems like option 3 is going to be the consensus, but we'll wait for the recorded vote. Thank you.
Councillor Ball, follow up, and then Councillor Patel, and then we'll vote.
Yeah, thanks. Just really quick. I just wanted to clarify that I was talking about option 6. That's not taking away from people's properties that we can try to get funding from. I've eliminated the trail altogether. So I was speaking specifically on option 6 to try and get staff direction to find some funding to maybe be able to do that so the tax base isn't lowered. So just wanted to clarify that.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy. Yeah, so, I mean, our mayor's clarified, what our options are. I guess at this point, option 3 is the option to go to without raising any taxes on residents. So I'll be voting for option 3, maybe a GoFundMe for Mayor Gordon as well for spandex.
Okay, you've heard the question, and we're calling for a recorded vote.
Okay, council, you've heard the motion. When I call your name, please answer yes or no. Councillor McDonald.
I'm in favor of option 3, which is the recommendation in the motion. Yes.
Councillor Ball.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Prost.
Yes.
Councillor East.
Yes.
Councillor Downer.
Yes.
Councillor Bald.
Yes.
Councillor Meredith.
Yes.
Councillor Patel.
Yes.
Mayor Gordon.
Yes.
Unanimous. That's carried.
9 in favor. It's carried.
Okay, moving on to 17.3. CSR 2024-66 Little Lake Park Stage and Bandshell Construction Project. The staff report CSR 2024-66 Little Lake Park Stage and Bandshell Construction Project dated June 12, 2024 be received, and 1, that council receives this report as information, and 2, that council directs staff to continue to work with the preferred proponent to find a solution that falls within the approved capital budget and have the project completed in 2024. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Mayor Gordon, Councillor Meredith. Open the floor for discussion. Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I alluded to this earlier. There's an option on this report to abandon the project entirely because of the cost overrun that we learned at our last meeting. Perhaps through serendipity. We never got to debate that option. So it was moved to this meeting. And that gave Kim and her team a chance to revisit this RFP, the successful bidder, and to see whether it was possible to keep this project alive. I know it kind of got prematurely announced as dead in the news, but keep this project alive by actually putting it back within our means, within our budget, because it was significantly over budget. And that led to ultimately my suggestion that we just, can't do this right now. Like, I want to. I was a huge proponent of it. I was so looking forward to cutting the ribbon, but it's not in our means right now. And I'm so happy to see this report come back and that the successful bidder is willing to rethink designs that fit within our budget, which is still significant because remember, it's not just a roof and, legs. It's a new stage too, because the current stage is falling apart. So it's basically replacing the whole rotary stage and adding a roof to it. And to try and pull that off for our budget, which is pretty meager in today's building dollars, I think is still a pretty tall order for the developer in question. But if they're willing to have that conversation, come up with some designs and spend the money, because it costs the money to do these designs, and show them to us, even if we can't expose them to the public. I'd love it if we could, but that'll be up to Kim and her magic negotiating powers. Let's pick the one that fits our budget, and then let's get her done, because this is largely, or at least half paid by provincial money that I'd really not like. I really don't want to give it back, but I have been assured that if we do, it doesn't hurt us in any way. Matter of fact, we're looked at as a responsible municipality, not just blowing it for the sake of blowing it. So I'm totally in support of this. This project can be revived, and it's really thanks to the effort of procurement and, quite frankly, the openness of the successful bidder, who we don't know who it is yet, but whoever they are, I'll thank you for being open to rejigging this to save the project that I think we're all looking forward to with the addition, our stairs. That's the centerpiece that's going to finish it off. And we spoke briefly about the One World Music Festival. They're hoping to use that, not just this year, but in future years, as our music in the park. There's just so many uses. We really need to fix this, because the stage will be condemned soon, and then no one will be using it. So kudos to staff for this one. As luck would have it, we didn't. I think if we had called a vote on killing the project last week or 3 weeks ago, it might have passed, and we wouldn't be having this conversation now. So everything happens for a reason, and I'm super happy to support this. And good luck, and bring us back something incredible, or a few options that it's within our budget, and let's get this thing built.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Meredith, and then Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't get the perception that this was dead in the water from our last meeting. We voted on the additional funds, and we voted against that, not saying that it was dead in the water. So I'm glad to see it back on the report, that we're going to go forward and work with the contractor, designer, and see what they can come out with, and hopefully we can get this constructed at the approved budget that council set forth at budget time. So let's get it done. Thanks.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. I'm also happy to see it going, but my question is in timing. Would it be going that swiftly that we would have to, the stage is booked for many activities? I know there was an activity that had to be canceled like a day's notice for the pavilion. And so I don't, what is the timing? And because I'm the one I'm thinking of the most is the World Music Festival. We wouldn't want him to he'd have to know now to be able to change everything. And my other question is, do we have input? The mayor and I sent a couple of band shells or pavilions pictures back and forth, and we said, we really like this one. So I don't know whether we can forward them to you, or whether they wouldn't care.
If I might, Madam Chair, the first part of your question, Councillor McDonald, I did ask that this afternoon so that I could answer. I figured that question would come up, and I was told that the contractor would not be in there until after the summer use season, and probably would be early fall at the earliest that he could make it, because we still are talking about designs, etc. So the question I had was, would there be any cancellations? And the answer I got was no. I hope that helps.
And then in regards to our input?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor McDonald, I'm happy to take a look at them. If you would like to send them my way, we will. If you guys do pass this tonight, I will be in conversations with them tomorrow. They have a couple architects on teams, but if we do have some maybe features or something that maybe we would like to incorporate, I can maybe put together a suggestion list and see what they can come back with that falls within our budget.
you.
Mayor Gordon.
Just for the public's understanding of what I sent, or when I was at the OAP SB conference in Collingwood in the Blue Mountains, their central stage, for those of you who visited Blue Mountain Village, it's a gently elevated thing. It's only a couple of steps, so you don't have to worry about people falling off of it. It's accessible, has a nice roof, and it fits in nicely with that whole feel of the central square in Collingwood. Or it's actually not a square, it's a circle, but you know what I mean. So anybody that's visited there, you'll know what I saw, and I thought, I have no idea what these things cost, but to me the materials look like there was some savings involved, because the stonework was that kind that was in a like a flat, and you glue or whatever it on around the pedestal. I'm not the construction guy. Councilor Meredith probably knows all this stuff inside and out, but it looked like it was not the most expensive option they could have done. And I have no idea if that's within our means, but I thought it was kind of pretty. So I took a picture of it, and I think I sent it to the CAO. But for anybody following along, and what the Blue Mountain, right in the square circle, I think they still call it the square. That's what I was kind of thinking might be kind of nice in the park. But again, I don't want to lead the design as a politician. The creative people that know how to do this and build it within our budget should do that. But the one thing we're going to see differently is that we're going to be able to see the design rather than being just asked to approve something blind. And with any luck, you'll also be able to see the designs too. If there's 2 or 3, you can help us pick, just like you did with the playground equipment. Because in the end of the day, this is going to be in your park. So I'm looking forward to that. And that wasn't the way we built the original RFP. And apparently this winning company is willing to overlook that and do us a solid and help us out with the design, because they really want to be the people that designed it for us. So I'm stoked about it. So just so you know, that's the picture I took. I can't remember what Councillor McDonald, if you can describe it to anybody or if you want to, but it's we're willing to hear from the public too.
Very briefly, it's at the Cancer Support Center in Penetang. It's beautiful.
Okay, seeing no further hands up, you've heard the motion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, 17.4 CSR 2024-65 Planning Services Department Biannual Report and 2024 Strategic Land Use Initiatives Update. The staff report CSR 2024-65 Planning Services Department Biannual Report and 2024 Strategic Land Use Initiatives Update dated June 12, 2024 be received. I just read that twice. Anyway, 1, that council approve the transfer of funds allocated for housing needs assessment to cultural heritage property evaluations. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Councillor East and Councillor Ball. I can open the floor for discussion, questions or comments. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you for this opportunity. I wanted the opportunity for us to discuss moving funds from to the heritage. It's not that I don't think it's a worthwhile fund, but the funds are coming from a much greater needed area. And the other thing in the planning department. So let's deal with that, and then I'll bring up the other issue. So I would rather the Heritage Committee come for, and I realize the province is putting a deadline on it, but the housing needs are more important to me than the culture heritage evaluation.
Can I ask staff to maybe explain that?
Through Madam Chair. So when the staff report was originally drafted, there was the requirement for heritage properties to be that are on our registry to go through the designation process by January 1st, 2025. The province passed Bill 200, which increased that time frame to 2027. So we do have a little bit more time. However, we were looking to have the housing needs assessment that was originally proposed, which the funds were allocated towards, through the manager of planning's research when he's preparing to try and get that study to see what we all needed. The County of Simcoe has actually done a lot of good work that we could piggyback off of and use. And the manager is going to report back to council on that. So we actually don't need to do the housing needs assessment now. It was also part of the Housing Accelerator Fund that was through the federal government that we were not successful in because that was one of the requirements that we had to have that study done. So the Heritage Committee, which was recently formed, they're very behind in trying to get caught up on some of these heritage items. The provincial government, one reason why they're putting this deadline on is, in their opinion, that there's a lot of heritage homes throughout the province that are hindering housing from being provided. So if your property is on a registry, it could be on there for years. Like we do have quite a substantial list of properties that we have to decide if we want to register them or not. Now, in order to do that, the best thing and most efficient way of doing it is to hire a consultant that would go through that process with staff and with the committee to identify which houses and which properties and which features throughout the municipality we should be going through the designation process to have those protected. So we feel that reallocation of these funds that were originally for that housing needs assessment that are no longer needed can go towards the heritage assessment or hiring a heritage consultant to assist staff and the heritage committee to complete that analysis. Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation. Do you have a follow-up, Councillor McDonald?
No, I do have one more question, actually. What is the advantage for Midland to have these homes identified as heritage, the province's label?
Through Madam Chair, so heritage planning is very important. It protects our culture, protects certain features within our municipality. There may be, it's not even just structures. Sometimes even vegetation and natural features are protected as well. So if they're not protected and somebody wanted to come in and redevelop a property, they have every right to just come in and tear it down without any sort of public consultation or any say from council. So there's different levels of protection that are currently that the Ontario Heritage Act provides. So if you're within the registry, you have very limited. If you're if you're in the inventory, you have basically no protection. If you're on the registry and someone wanted to come and tear down a house, they'd have to come to council first. And then council has to make that determination if they want to go through the designation process. If it's designated, it's completely protected. And if the homeowner wanted to do alterations to the building, depending on what the feature was that was being protected, they would have to maintain it. So it's heritage planning is very important. And I think in the planning world, it doesn't get enough recognition that it deserves. So we have a lot of cultural and very historic buildings within our municipality that deserve the attention of the Heritage Committee and potentially protection from being demolished or altered.
Just a follow-up comment. I appreciate the heritage aspect of it. We have some wonderful, excuse me, buildings in town that aren't designated, that I feel are heritage, that are in decrepit state. What comes to mind? Well, decrepit might be a little bit heavy, but not in good order at our YMCA, the Knox Church. They're beautiful buildings. They're not protected. So I feel the housing needs for those funds where they're allocated. I think they should, I know it says it's going back into the general coffers if we don't redirect those funds. But I would like that to stay with the housing. I know it's not going to be that the county has done the assessment. We can piggyback on their information as Councillor Ball and I suggested, but we should use it, for instance, for the upcoming symposium that I hope we support. We need some money to do that and get some ideas together. Ideas like the Aurelia downtown, or excuse me, Collingwood. They provided rapid housing support. We need to do something for our housing needs. My priority is there. I'll support heritage evaluation in other ways, but not with this reallocation.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I tend to agree with that. I also just wanted to know why our Heritage Committee can't take this on themselves. Why do we need an outside consultation? Can you tell me why there's a consultant needed? What scope of the work they're going to do that we can't do already?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the Heritage Committee is very newly formed. They don't have the expertise within the committee to do it. It would be more efficient if we had a consultant who would be able to dedicate time to complete that analysis. There's quite a few properties. The Heritage Committee, I don't think would be able to finish it in the appropriate time. Now, hiring a consultant is not going to be the entire allocation that was put there for the housing needs assessment. So we wouldn't be using that entire budgeted line. So, but I don't think the Heritage Committee would have the expertise on staff to be able to complete that study to the appropriate level that we would need to make that determination if certain properties would have to be go through that designation process.
Any more questions or comments? Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to extract some information from you about not only the waterfront master plan, but the Midland Bay Landing. The fact that it's got its legs under it again, and there's an RFP for the RFP out there, and maybe it would be helpful to the community who's keenly interested in seeing what this whole rethink is going to be and how this council is, fulfilling its pledges to get this thing back on the tracks. What this RFP process is, we understand that we're under, there's limited stuff we can talk about right now in this because it literally it's live right now, and we're in a blackout period. But we spoke briefly about this earlier, that there's lots of good stuff that we can share with the community about this process and the milestones and what can be expected, next steps, community collaboration, and all this kind of stuff. If you could share a little bit about what this RFP for the RFP is all about and how you envision this rolling out, where the community input, the valuable community input, informs the scope of what this new engagement is going to look like before ultimately it goes back out into the wild and we see what kind of amazingness comes from the development committee. So kind of lobbing this one on you because it's a perfect opportunity to talk about this for people that are concerned that we just put the land up for sale again right now, which we didn't, without any community consultation. So I just want to make sure we're crystal clear with the community on what's going on and next steps, if you could.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So what the current RFP that was just released is to retain a consultant who's going to assist us with the broader, larger RFP to try and get interest and have a developer come on board, whether it's through the North American, European markets. So it's going to go internationally as well. So this first one is just to get somebody on board to assist us in drafting that RFP, who has experience in trying to attract developers with larger scale developments. Now, this RFP, there's no public real consultation. It's just us retaining someone. The larger one, there will be an opportunity. Because not only as part of this RFP with Midland Bay Landing, we also have approval from council to do a waterfront master plan. So that waterfront master plan is going to have significant public input as well. So there's going to be multiple, avenues for the public to be able to provide their input. But for the second round of the Midland Bay Landing RFP, one option that we could do before that formally goes out, we could potentially have like an open house where the RFP hasn't gone out yet, but we can have a public open house where the public can come and give, their opinions and give their suggestions on what they want to see on the Midland Bay Landing site. So that way we're still staying within our realms for procurement and those types of, rules that we got to stay within because we haven't gone out yet, but we can then use that input that we get from the public to frame that RFP and work with the consultant that we've retained in the first one, so that when we do go out to market, the developers that are going to be looking at potentially bidding are going to know what the expectation is from the community and from the public. And then that will also, and then when we do the waterfront master plan, we'll have those additional public consultations as well, because the waterfront master plan isn't just looking at the Midland Bay Landing site, it's looking at our entire waterfront. And then properties set for a little bit further back from the waterfront as well to make sure that there's some connectivity there with the downtown to the waterfront. So there's going to be multiple avenues, as I've said, for the public to provide that engagement. This first one is just to get that initial consultant on board with us so that we can then start to proceed through the development and the review process for the next one.
Thanks. So just the kind of high level update I was looking for. It's better to hear it from our staff than always, my talking about it. And of course, I'm a huge proponent of let's get this thing going. Let's parkify the east side, keep the 1,100 meters of the shoreline public, and build something amazing in our deep water port that can bring in tax revenue and bring in tourism and everyone can enjoy. But that's just, this is just me parroting what I heard over the past few years. The opportunity for those public consultations to make sure that 2 years down the road, is that still what people want? I personally hope it is, but we're servants of the people. And I'll remind folks that I have $5 million of private money pledged to parkify that eastern side if we don't go back on that pledge. So that can help inform the conversation too. But we'll do all of this in the Public Information Center or whatever format you decide to run this in. And I want the community to know that this project is back on track. It's huge. It's a once in a lifetime. We want to get as much done in this term before we go lame duck as possible so we can hand the baton to the new council and they can carry it on. And, it doesn't fall off the track again as it did, arguably partly by design this term, right? So we have the chance to reset it and do what this community now wants to see on this once in a lifetime opportunity. So thanks for the update. Look forward to hearing more about this. And I'm excited to see get this RFP guy nailed down or gal or whatever organization we end up with and have the whole community understand exactly what their marching orders are in building this new RFP. So looking forward to it. Glad we could touch on it tonight, that it was baked into this report.
Yeah, thank you for that information. It makes it much more clear for everybody to know what's happening, and they still will have an opportunity to be part of the decisions that we had some of us had promised them. So if seeing no more questions or comments on the current motion in front of me, do you want me to read the last bit again so we know what we're voting on? The council approved the transfer of funds allocated for housing needs assessment to cultural heritage property evaluations. All those in favor? Opposed? 1. That's carried. On to 18, notices of motion. Do we have any notices of motion? Looks like we have a few. Mayor Gordon?
Thanks. And recognizing this won't be discussed or debated until our September meeting, I figured I'd just put this out there now. I could have sent it by email, but I just wanted people to ruminate on this over the next few months. and I'll send this by email to the clerks, they don't know about it yet. That in recognition of his long service to the town of Midland and his passion for Midland sports and recreation, specifically baseball in Tiffin Park, that council support naming a currently unnamed roadway north of Adam Dixon Way in Tiffin Park to Fred Flood Way, with an unveiling and dedication in the fall of 2024. And I'll email that into the clerks.
Councillor Meredith, you had a notice of motion?
Yeah, I have a, yes, I do. I have a notice of motion to direct staff to come back to council for the 2025 budget with a target of 2.5%. Repeat that. I'd like to direct staff for the 2025 budget to come back with a target rate of 2.5% increase over last year's budget.
We have any more notices of motion? Okay, seeing none, we can go on to 19, general announcements. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. I just wanted to announce my attendance of the Pickleball Ontario tournament that was held at Tiffin Park. It was, I don't play pickleball, but I was certainly encouraged to join. It's a bit of a fever. It was very interesting, and it attracted many people from all over the province. So it was good that they scouted Midland, and everyone I spoke to from out of town were impressed. The other thing that I attended was the e-bike workshop that was hosted by Penetanguishene. What I learned there the most was that we have to work with our neighboring municipalities to develop similar guidelines, because you could be on your bike and be in Tay or Tiny or Penetanguishene on one ride. And if we all have different guidelines, it makes it a little confusing. And of course, the Butter Tart Festival, what a hit. So that's all my announcements. Thank you.
Councillor Ball, then Councillor East.
Thank you. I just wanted to direct everyone to go check out the St. Margaret's Cemetery. There's beautiful crosses set up for fallen veterans in that cemetery. I was able to attend the Allegiant because Mayor Gordon was at another event for cadets on Sunday. So all the veterans there are very proud of them, and they weren't able to attend in person because of rain. So if you can go pay your respects, that would be amazing. And I also wanted to point out for any schools looking to get involved in, it's a great segue from all our bike conversation. The On the Move committee just hosted a bike rodeo at Mundy's Bay. I was able to volunteer for a bit, and I'm hoping other schools will get on board, including the one my kids go to. So it was very cool. The OPP had a little ramp there and was teaching bike skills. So it was a fun event, and hopefully other schools in the area can get on board with this committee.
Councillor East.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Budget time, we approved the transit to Balm Beach. So and you'll have to forgive me, the words aren't coming. The head is really hurting right now, but starting Saturday, June the 29th, and I'll actually just read it so I can get it up properly. The town of Midland will be providing transit to Balm Beach from June the 29th on weekends to September the 6th. This is an in-call service through the Community Reach program. There will be limitations on the number of rides per trip. This program will be booking through their service, our service. Essentially, the rider will have to call in and book in a slot in and out. We're going to be, I guess, advertising this through the Midland website in cooperation with Penetang, but it is just strictly for Midland residents. So this is an opportunity for Midland residents and Midland families to use our transit to get out to Palm Beach, to enjoy Georgian Bay once again without having to worry about parking restrictions. I'm hoping that, Bill will kind of help me promote this a bit. So I just wanted to open that up. It's a great opportunity once again for Midland residents only at this time. I'm hoping to grow it to Penetang if I get their support with it next year. But yeah, to get out and enjoy Georgian Bay once again. So please take advantage of this opportunity, and if it grows, we'll grow it.
Any more announcements? Oh, sorry. Councillor Patel, you just told me that.
Thank you, Deputy. I guess the Red Bulls aren't working, so. So I guess the Cultural Alliance has sent an RSVP to council and mayor and deputy mayor regarding the event Penetang is hosting for the National Indigenous Peoples Day flag raising. I think there's some, it's gonna be refreshments and things like that. I don't know if everyone got the RSVP email. If not, we can have it resent. And also on the 20th at St. Marie Park, the Native Friendship Center is hosting an event at St. Marie Park, I believe at 7 p.m. Friday and Saturday. The powwow, sorry. But it is recommended that we attend these events, highly requested, especially the flag raising, which is done by the committee, which is, a group of 4 townships. I think it's very important. So if everyone can get it done, thank you.
Mayor Gordon.
Always count on a couple for me. So just further to that, Midland will be hosting its own flag raising as we do for these. This will be on Thursday, the 20th at 9:30 at the steps of the town hall. So please, people, enjoy, come out and help celebrate this. It's the most simple truth and reconciliation recommendation possible. And that's just simply to come to the events, learn about the culture, and participate. Easy. Anybody can do it. It's free. And so, if you wonder, well, what can I do about truth and reconciliation? Well, there's an easy one. Go to the powwow. Have a great time. Come to our flag raising. We'll share some words. There's a flag raising, of course, in Penetang Machine from the Cultural Alliance. There's a lot of activities, man. Because we're not meeting again until September. I could rhyme off my calendar. It's just jam full this summer. Tons of stuff happening. But I'm not going to do that to you right now. We have a town website for that. And a really able comms team. In relation to the trips with Community Reach down to Palm Beach, I remember when I first started promoting that, man, did we ever take a beating from the guy that runs the Tiny Township News Facebook page. He's like one of my favorite trolls. And but anyway, he's just going to have to suck it up because this is a service we're doing for our municipality. As long as there's no parking signs for 10 kilometers down every concession road, we got a way around that. And it's only $3 a ride. However, on the good news, this is pre-news. I watch other council meetings because I have no life sometimes, just to see what's going on. And it looks like Tiny Township. I saw their deputy mayor and the whole council endorse revisiting the parking prohibitions in Tiny Township and potentially installing paid parking as a revenue generator. Go figure. And that will mean access to the beaches, the public beaches, of course, not people's private property, but the public beaches, resuming again, hopefully in 2025. So anytime you're talking to Tiny Council and people following along, if you live in Tiny, hopefully you support this, talk to them and tell them how awesome that is. Because I've been trying to just, extol the virtues of their forward thinking. So I've been lobbying for this for 2 years and they did it on their own. God love them. And that'll mean that we won't need to do this this transit system in 2025. But if that doesn't come to pass, then let's expand the service and draw people off at other beaches rather than just the packed Bomb Beach. That was some legitimate criticism from the guy that runs that site. So, you know, why don't you go use other beaches? Well, we will. Believe me, we will. There's lots of awesome beaches. You know, we have the Deepwater Port. Penetanguishine's got the shallow harbor, and Tiny Township has the Caribbean beaches. You know, that's what makes North Simcoe beautiful. Tay is also beautiful. They have the trail, and they also have beaches, but they pale by comparison. The Tiny Township just kills it. So I'd love to, that's looking forward to that. So that's not really an announcement. It's kind of an addendum. So support the crew at Tiny Township. I know they're taking a beating for their desire to build a new recreation center. Notwithstanding that, they are doing amazing things. So let's give them props, because we all know what it's like to make contentious decisions in council. This is an opportunity to say, you know what, Tiny Council, if you're a Tiny resident listening, this is awesome. Please do that. So support them, because we'd love to have access and come back to your community and spend our money there. BIA, to be handed props for the bollard covers downtown. If you haven't had a chance to see this yet, we've been musing about this. Why don't we just cover those stupid things with a sleeve or something to stop smashing our car doors on them? Why not put some advertising on it or something? You know, it can't be that hard to do. Well, you know, that musing turned into reality, and the BIA got together with some grants, which is awesome, and creative local talent. And they made these beautiful slide-on skins onto the bollards that raise their visual height so you can see them from a truck now. And if you do happen to open your door into them, then, you know, it won't leave a mark. Well, it'll leave art. It'll leave art, right? And who can, it's like an art stamp on your door. But anyway, that was an awesome job. And I surely hope they remain there and don't get vandalized or stolen. But if they do, the vandals won't win. We'll just keep replacing them. I think it's a fantastic initiative, and I'd love to see it continue. So props to the BIA. If you haven't had a chance to see this, go downtown, check out the artistic bollards. Now on to the big one. Community grants funding. I alluded to it earlier. It's 50, 60 grand. It used to be over 100 of tax money we would put into this fund, and we give it away every year. And we loved giving it away, but it hurt at tax time to, you know we were putting 50 to 60 or 100 grand into the community grants fund. So it was floated at budget time, you know, hey, why don't we basically copy Tiny and say, let's run a golf tournament that's been working well for them for well over a decade and use that to fund our community grants. So we're doing that. So again, props to my buddies in Tiny. You've inspired me. Hopefully you don't mind that we're, you know, ripping you off, but it's the truest form of flattery. Tay is too, by the way, so such as us. And so this is the first annual Mayor's Charity Golf Tournament. It's called that in title, but it's council. Just as head of council, the name gets smacked onto it. But this isn't my tournament. This is our tournament. So the way we've got things priced, we've kind of built it out to be mimicking Tiny. Again, why reinvent the wheel? If we get our sponsorships that I'm hoping to land, we're going to hit the 50K in sponsorships alone. And then the silent auctions, which we all have to go hustling for silent auction donations, that could bring in anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, I'm led to believe. We've got lots of sponsorships available already. I already landed the gold sponsor, which is awesome. He hasn't paid yet, so we're not supposed to say his name, but I know he's gonna. And today I landed a couple more silver sponsors, and we also have some local sponsors that Councillor Patel has rustled up. I think our lunch sponsors nailed already. We've got a couple hole sponsors, maybe a birdie sponsor. Cart sponsor, I think we have a hole-in-one. This one I'll just tell you because I know what's happening. So the Bourgeois Motors, God bless them, are going to run the hole-in-one. You're going to win a free vehicle, and not like the tiniest eco sport, like something beefy and good. If you do land the hole-in-one, you're going to drive out of there with a vehicle you own, and we'll have that on site. So they were kind enough to sponsor that. I just confirmed that today. So this is our first go at it, with staff throwing themselves at it the week before Butter Tart and still being able to pull off the promotional material, create signage for me, all in the week leading up to Butter Tart. God bless the staff. And make this all look professional and make me look good when I'm out there rattling the bushes, hustling. So if you'd like to play in our first annual golf tournament, you'll find all the information on our town website page. There's links to the sponsorships. There's links on how to donate to the silent auction. There's links to how to register at Brookley. They've kindly agreed to host for us as foursomes or singles. We're going to have an awesome prime rib dinner. I'm working on some NHL VIP type folks to make appearances. and perhaps you could even add a little money to the table and you could have dinner with them. So I haven't got the names nailed down yet. I'll be blabbing about that. But keep an eye on the town site, because as we nail these things down, we'll publish them and the logos of our amazing sponsors. So this is exciting. You know, it's kind of like yawn, old news for Tiny. It's autopilot for them. This is our first one. And if we can knock it out of the park this year, we may have more than the 50 grand I anticipated to then give back in its entirety to our small charities in North Simcoe that serve Midland and North Simcoe residents. So super stoked about it. Lots of work to do still. Small but mighty team. I've got Councillor Ball and Councillor McDonald looped into it, even though I haven't leveraged them yet. We've got to be careful we don't form quorum, which is why I'm not trying to lean on all of you, but I'll take help from all of you to try and scare up silent auction prizes. And if you know any sponsors, send them my way. This is a big deal for Midland. It also is a big deal for our taxes, because we're one of the last people that still does community grants, and we want to get off tax money, and now we're going to wean ourselves off of that. So big win. We just got to have a good day. You guys can come out and laugh at me. I'm a duffer. Terrible at golf. I'm not too bad on my short game, but I hook like heck, and I'm terrible. So if nothing else, it'd be a fun day of just watching me and my golf fails. All right, so that's, Saturday, September 6th. Friday, September 6th is the date. Rain or shine, and heck of a good lunch, good dinner, good 18 holes, all the usual requisite, you know, first best ball, whatever, you know, all these golf things. I'm not really a golfing guy, as you can tell, but we have all those kind of things. It'll be a 50-50 and a good time for all. So there you are, my long-winded announcement for our first annual Mayor's Charity Golf Tournament, Friday, September 6th, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Brookley Golf and Country Club, with a hole-in-one amazing car donated by, or truck or something donated by Bourgeois, and a gold sponsor, a silver sponsor, and we need a bunch more. So folks, if you want to sponsor this and be part of it, we will promote the heck out of you. I will shamelessly endorse you on our website and my website and social media, and we'll have a good old time raising money for a darn good cause. There you go.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. Sounds like I need to practice my golf skills. Also, if Tiny's looking for parking meters, we have some. I just wanted clarification though on the Indigenous flag raising. Ours and Penetang's is at the same time. Is that what I heard? Thursday, June 20th at 9:30? That's what I had in my calendar for Penetang, so I wanted to make sure that.
Ours is
right.
Friday.
Okay. Thanks, sir. I thought the mayor said Thursday, so I just want to clarify. Okay. Like, I don't have that ours in my calendar, only have Penetang, so good to know. Thank you.
Thursday, 9:30 Penetang. Friday, 10:30
Midland.
Yeah, you have to RSVP.
Yeah, I did, I believe. Okay, do we have any further announcements? All right, we're on to number 20. Motion to close committee of the whole and to resume formal council session. It's moved by Councillor Meredith, seconded by Councillor Bald, that the committee of the whole rise and report. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We've all been here since before 4:30, so we're going to take a 10-minute bio break, and we'll resume at 9 o'clock.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry, we just had a quick little break. We're just moving back out of committee of the whole, back into council. So I have a motion moved here by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Patel, that the recommendations of the committee of the whole for the meeting of June 12th, 2024 be adopted as resolutions of council. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Okie doke. Now we are moving along to motions for which notice was given. I just got to get my right screen back here so I can find where I'm at. 22.1. I have a motion here moved by Councillor McDonald that needs a seconder. Got seconded by Councillor East. As its regular meeting with closed session on May 1st, 2024, Council passed Resolution 2024-157 directing staff to initiate the planning and hosting of a second Hope Housing and Health Symposium, and the County of Simcoe has advised that it would not be providing any funding, staffing, or assistance with respect to organizing and planning of this second symposium for 2024. And the council approved that a third party be retained to organize the symposium, and that funding for this 2024 initiative of $25,000 be approved from the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve. Councillor McDonald, take it away.
Well, thank you. Everyone here agrees, I believe, anyway, all the council recognizes the need. And I just want to refer to the item that came through on our council information package. It was a joint release between the County of Simcoe and the town of Collingwood. It says county providing rapid rehousing support in the town of Collingwood. And its aims is to provide services, housing, and support to individuals who have fallen on difficult times and helps to place them in permanent housing quickly. So if Collingwood could get it, and we can get this symposium going, we can figure out how we can provide some rapid housing support, I hope, amongst other things. So we might not need to spend the $25,000, but we have to do something to get it started. If this is approved, I would like to nail the date down for a week, a day in October, and get that date out, save that date out to the agencies before they go on holidays. So I am seeking your support for this motion.
Deputy Mayor.
I'm just wondering why it would cost $25,000. My understanding too is the second symposium was for an update to see how things progress through the summer and early fall. I don't know why it would cost $25,000 to have the room at the rec center and agencies come together and share their findings from all the hard work that's going to go on this summer.
I don't know where that figure came from. I have no, but let's just say it doesn't necessarily mean we will spend $25,000, but if something comes up that we need it, it's not just for updates, but it's also to hopefully move forward with some firm ideas on how to address our problems. Sometimes a guest speaker that attracts and motivates costs money. It's just something that we can say we do have some money. You usually provide some lunch. So, but Deputy Mayor Brose, I'm not saying we're going to spend it, but it's nice to have something there to start.
Madam CEO, maybe you can fill in, because I think staff helped with this motion, what the rationale was for the 25K.
Yes, through your worship to council. So the 25,000 is an estimate. We actually, at this point in time, so first off, it would be to produce any materials that we needed to produce, and any printouts. To Councillor McDonald's point, if we needed to actually pay to have a speaker, but also because it is, we would have to start planning now, in which our event coordinators and our events team are planning other events that are happening this summer, and the golf tournament that's coming up. We may have to actually reach out and get some extra support to help us to plan it. But so we may need to take away as well with staff to figure out what the best timing is, and if we could do it in October or if we could move it out, because I'm not sure. So we may need to get someone on board to help us out, because our event team is a staff of 3, and right now they're working on quite a few other events that are currently underway.
Thanks. Councillor McDonald, did you follow up, and then we'll go to Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I've had volunteers. Now I don't know whether she expected to pay, but they just a couple of women just finished a very successful She Leads workshop day here in Midland. They got a couple hundred people, and she offered to help. And I already approached Waypoint. Maybe we can get some help there. So we might not need the money, but it's good to have something.
MCO?
Yeah, through your worship, I agree that it is good to have a budget there just for the unknowns that come up, but that's great.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. Yeah, there already is a monthly meeting that happens with the guest house shelter, Wendat, Salvation Army. I know I've mentioned this multiple times when the inspector was here, I think was the last time. They are already in collaboration. Possibly they want to be involved with the planning of this as well, since it's their organizations that are going to be attending. They maybe have some ideas that are outside of our scope, and they probably are doing this on a volunteer basis within their regular work hours. I don't know. I obviously can't speak to that until we've approached them, but maybe that would be an option we can look at. Also, the keynote speaker last year was phenomenal. So I think that you definitely want to have that option to be available to you. Half of, I guess, having people on board is inspiring them. So that the keynote speaker does that.
Councillor Emeritus.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. When I saw the motion, and I like the idea of a follow-up symposium. I just thought it was the first thought that came to me was it was a little early to see not only how we're progressing, what we've improved on, the successes and so forth. We just had Inspector Todd Pittman in here in front of council and in front of the BIA. And he's got some great ideas of pulling all the resources together so everybody's knows what everyone's doing, and it would be good for, and with the increased enforcement and so forth. He was on the panel at the symposium last October. So a good update on his data and his findings would be, and I think it would be great to hear. And I think if we're heading in October, it might be a little too soon. So I'm not sure if pushing this to the following year would be of interest to you, or we would just try to get this underway in October. Just my initial thoughts. It is very disappointing that the county is not interested in assisting with this symposium. Especially Midland circumstances, you'd think the county would be on board and eager to come. So that's very disappointing.
Just before I jump over to Deputy Mayor and then back to Councillor Ball, the county, just to answer your question, they concur with you. It's too soon. There's too many things in flux, too many things in motion. It's too soon to be able to look at a dashboard and see what changes have happened. We haven't even met this one community solution yet. Supposedly they're out there, but I have no idea. So, their comments to me was, it's too soon and there's no clear purpose. And why can't we just pull the providers informally like we do now? We're already talking to them all the time. We don't need to host a whole symposium, go throw the money to ask them a question, which we can ask them any day of the week by email or by a Zoom meeting. So the county just said, they've got way too many other things on the go right now in relation to this file. To Councillor McDonald's point, the Collingwood project and a bunch of other ones. And as we also know that there's background projects happening in Midland right now, including the one we just approved tonight. So there's a lot of things on the go, and they just didn't see the value in organizing and hosting and spending it because they basically flipped the bill for the last one. So it's a bit soon from their perspective. We want to run it sooner, no problem. We're free to do it. So just the county isn't abandoning us. They follow your line of thinking almost verbatim. Deputy Mayor.
I agree with Councillor McDonald. I don't really think it's too soon. Maybe October can be pushed to November. Just thinking if I was one of those service providers, and all the things that are going to be happening in the next few months and everything implemented, and if there's changes and how things go. It is still very early. But if they were to just come and speak to that, this is how, you know, their summer went, and they would be able to put some stats together, you know, in September, October, November, just to give I think what you're thinking is giving the community an update, right? Inviting the community. We should be able to use the rec center for however that works. And coffee, that's what was there last year, and it was perfect. It's really, if I'm thinking the same way you are, it's somewhere for the public to go to see and hear what's been happening and how it's been working, and just so they're engaged, and maybe our next steps. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It's community input and community information. It's sharing everything with the community. And I think that's important. They want to know what's happening because they're not all watching our meetings or keeping on top of it. I can barely do that. Is that more what you were thinking, Councillor McDonald, at this point?
Well, yes, sharing with the community for sure, but sharing inter-agencies information. For instance, this 10-point homeless prevention strategy, the results of what came out of our last symposium, was it any good to anyone? They have it. That we would get our reactions now. And I can appreciate the county taking a lot on. That's why I think we have to lead this ourselves. I think we can do a terrific job. It'll be more timely when we say we're going to do something on a certain date. I believe it'll happen. I hope that you support this. I almost I thought we could get the money instead of, but we sent it to the Heritage Committee instead. But where did she say it would come from? The tax rate stabilizing reserve. And it doesn't mean we're going to spend 25,000. It's just there. And yes, include the community, but also mostly get a reaction to what was happened before and how can we improve, keep improving. Like the mayor said, this one community service that is kind of like supposed to be here, but nobody's seen anything. Why not? That sort of reaction is brainstorming and finding solutions is my goal.
Follow?
Or goal.
Yeah, thank you. I think we are on the same, thinking the same, because all the community services that we do have and are involved, and you know the new people we're going to have downtown, the more police presence, everything that's going to be happening, it would give them a chance to talk and say where they're coming from, or what they were able to see that was different and better, and what they still need. I really think if we want to do this, it's really for us to show our community that we're listening. And like the county is kind of referring to it, having a bigger symposium with more to it and making further plans with them would be a later date. Like that part makes sense to me. But I think going back to the community this October makes sense. But we go back to the community as us with community providers and hear what's been happening and hear from the public. To me, that's public engagement, and we're listening.
We're on the same page, Deputy Mayor Prost. And if no beginning of November makes sense, I'm open to that as well. Just that you want to avoid winter.
Councillor Ball?
Thank you. I actually see this more, the community update is important, but I think I see the collaborations between organizations that last year went really well. But what happened was they gave concerns. The concerns were there. The county took it. I can understand why they don't want to be involved because they took all our concerns. They gave us solutions. So to me, it's up to us now to spearhead those solutions, to connect organizations. And that was not what happened last time. What happened last time was the concerns were brought up. This is now about the connections, collaborations. How do we utilize all these services that we've been given in the best possible way? How are we ensuring that we can go forward together and actually use funding appropriately across organizations? That I think is a really important piece that needs to be done sooner than later. I think, for instance, having Inspector Pickman, sorry, he came and he didn't know about these monthly meetings because he actually wasn't at that part. He was at the panel part with the community, but OPP wasn't even there during the day to talk to all these organizations. So there was a disconnect already there. So I think now that we've identified all these problems, we've been able to get funding. Now's the piece where Midland comes in and spearheads the collaboration piece. And I think that if we prolong that, that's not going to be any good to anybody. So I think that's the most important part of this is, yes, the community should be updated, but the real piece is us being able to collaborate with other organizations and continue to move forward all together. And that was not the piece that was there last year. The piece was information.
Councillor Meredith?
Yeah, well, thank you for clearing that up. I was kind of under the impression, I was thinking something differently. Well, something to the same lines, but the county coming in and that type of basically the symposium that we just went to. So I am interested in like the Collingwood housing, the project there, and if we can get some information on that, how that came to fruition, that would be good if we can get some information of that at this symposium or even earlier. That would be great, because it is important that we keep the community informed and not let our foot off the pedal here. I see it every day. I get calls on it quite frequently. So and the whole community is seeing it. So it's very important, and we can collaborate with our, our networks here, and get the solutions. And as Councillor Ball said, we're on our own now, so it's our own problem. Unfortunately, we're the ones that live day by day by it. So we need to find solutions with the help of our partners, for sure. Thank you.
I guess my burning question is, I know that the organizations in our community collaborate extensively with each other. None of them are in silos. I mean, there's the Simcoe County Alliance to End Homelessness meetings that happen Thursday every month. And there's probably other ones I'm not even aware of, but all of the stakeholders in the community, that most of them draw their funding from the province or flow through funding from the province through the county, they're in constant comms with their counterparts at county. These conversations are all happening. I don't know of any evidence that suggests that somehow our symposium or this council's efforts or the municipality's efforts is going to bridge some gap that currently exists. I just don't see the evidence that we're doing that. I mean, communicating with the community and having the panel as we did of all these service providers sitting up on a platform and having the community basically, bring their concerns, and some of them were quite serious, to that panel, and having the panel respond and the county or making notes and figure out how they can plug them into services which we were lavished upon. Like, I'm still fuzzy on this one community, but apparently they're out there. We're going to find out more on that. But I just don't, to me, October, our small contingent of staff trying to pull this golf tournament off, which, we're a little late to the game at, but making great strides. I just don't know if it's too much for our staff. And if we have to engage a paid person to help organize outside of this, which we may already have to do for the golf tournament, it just becomes a bit of a, the county's not going to be there, and they're the people who have the funding and the mandate and the master plan and what they're doing throughout the county for the services. I don't know if us just sitting around kind of bemoaning our common issues is really a good waste of, way to spend our time and to spend tax money. I almost said waste, but it's not a waste. Listening to people is never a waste, but I just don't see what value we're really going to get out of it rushing this to October when we're still having services rolling out. And I don't think we're going to see overnight, real change to what's happening in the field downtown. This would feel almost better to host like next year sometime after we've had some more time for the dust to settle. And then the county by then will probably be behind helping us run and host another symposium because enough time will have passed. Not only can we rely on their pockets to help us with it, but I think they'd be keenly aware and seeing the outcome of their efforts as well. But I just think October feels a little rushed for a variety of reasons. So, it's not enough that if this council wants to do this, I'm not going to be the guy voting against it. But I just think that, the motivation behind this is 100% valid. And I believe we need to do it. I just think pushing it to this October for a variety of reasons just feels wrong. And we'd be better off, hosting this maybe in the spring next year if we didn't want to knock it over another summer. Sometime in the spring before the tourist season kicks off to see how things have managed. That'll give us more time to liaise with the county about rapid rehousing and seeing what the plans are and see if we qualify, because those things aren't here because we didn't qualify in their needs analysis. Even though we may feel differently. The people that do this for a living, said that it's needed in Aurelia. That's where they sent the berry shelters, right? That used to be on Earl Street. Collingwood got this rapid rehousing, and we know of other things that are actively being worked on in our municipality right now. One that I've talked about semi-publicly is, expansion, and I should probably say this because there's some misinformation, expansion of services at guest house, not for more shelter beds, but allowing wraparound supportive housing to exist in that building, funded by the county, but run by, I believe it's already been said, run by Waypoint in that building. So there's a lot of time, money, and effort being spent behind the scenes, not only support the guest house, which still struggles in its operational challenges, but also in installing new services here. And this is all in flux. I think October may be too aggressive a timeline, even though it feels right. But I would argue that even if we didn't do the symposium now, if we just deferred this, we don't have to vote no on anything, but if we deferred it, if we revisit this in the spring, we'll have probably a better idea on capacity, and as a community, we'll be hearing constantly through email and anecdotally and visually what the impact has been of the changes the county's done, and we might be in a better place to really take a true accurate temperature. So that would be my only word of caution, is that this is a good idea, but I think October is a bit rushed, and that the spring would probably be a better time to run it. And we might find the supportive county who funds whatever things we dream up from this. Having them in the room would be very helpful in my mind. Having them not there and us running it, maybe not so much. So just some thoughts on it, but I'll defer to council how this is going to go for the vote. Because either way, everyone knows we're working towards symptom management because we can't deal with root causes. Sir, I think Councillor Ball and then Councillor McDonald.
Thanks. I agree that they're meeting and we're not reinventing the wheel, and they already are discussing things within their own organizations. The problem is staffing. It's the same problem that we saw with the library not being able to get a social worker on board because they can't have a staff to look after that responsibility. Like, that's where Midland needs to step up. And obviously no one here knows what that looks like right now, but we need to be the person that's bridging all those gaps and I guess we're the
We're just getting reconnected here, folks. If you saw us all drop, we did. Solar flares or something. Is everybody's camera coming back to life? We'll just make sure we're all back online and let you carry on, Councillor Ball. I don't see you.
I'm on
I mean, I
mine.
physically see you. I just don't see you on.
I can see my. Oh.
Disconnected.
You'll jump back in again after. There we are, and we're back again. Almost. Councillor East is just getting gizzed up here. There we go. Yeah, sorry for that little hiccup. I don't know what that's gonna look like on the recording, but if we all vanished like we just left the room, we did for a moment, but we're back. Councillor Ball was mid-sentence when whatever happened. So please carry on.
That's okay. I'll realign my thoughts there. But as I was saying about Midland being the forefront and head runner for this, I think that the OPP said they had capacity to take on a social worker, but the problem is there's no direction to do that. Midland, I think, needs to figure out that we are the direction. We are the person that needs to connect all these organizations. We are the organization that needs to do that. So I don't know what that looks like in a capacity. Obviously, we don't have the staffing for that either, but it's our problem and we need to figure out a solution. So I think this is at least a way to start, is by having these organizations come together and be able to see how we can facilitate this going forward, see how we can bring these funds together going forward, how Midland has a role in that, because we were allowing county to take the lead on it and we were getting funding from county. And now that we have that, I think Midland needs to step up and say, what can we do and how does that look in the future? And how can Midland make these things happen within our own community?
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. Just in respect to you thinking your comment about it being a little too soon, I don't think so, because you've got to keep the momentum going. The county said that they weren't able to assist with organizing and planning, but they didn't say they wouldn't attend. I do believe they would attend the meeting. As I mentioned, I have someone that is willing to help, that has organized things before. And I'm willing to do a lot of the legwork. I would, of course, need the town to post things. And, you know, if they can post things all of vary between the butter tart and the golf tournament, all of a sudden, I'm sure they can help me in help us get this message across. I don't think it's too soon. I think after the summer months, there'll be a lot of people there to share what worked for them, what didn't. I'd be very, very interested in knowing whether the package that the county sent out was of any use to anyone. The 10-point system. If we wait until the spring, say, that's going to be like it's going to be too stale. Nobody will even remember the previous symposium. So I really hope that the council supports this. And like I mentioned, I'm willing to do a lot of the legwork. And the first thing to do is to set a date and time. And then get that date and time out there and then make it happen.
Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Meredith.
I agree with Councillor McDonald. I'd be willing to do a lot too. I'm wondering if maybe, because we already just realized that we're on the same page, we're not expecting a lot out of this. I think it's public community meeting because we had the symposium last year. These are the things that have been tried and we're working on. And how is it for you? It's that community involvement, right? And it's not going to cost any of these agencies to come and, you know, maybe answer a few questions or give us what little data they're going to have from, a few months. Like, this did help, but it can be helpful, right? For me, it's the community involvement. We don't even have to call it a symposium. We can call it a community meeting as a follow-up from the symposium. And these are a lot has been done. So let's see where we're at. And it's really just talking to the community. And I would be willing to help. I think it needs to be simple. We're not going to solve anything that night, not by a long shot, but we're going to talk and listen.
Councilor Meredith.
I just had a question for staff. Looking at your schedules coming, October, I know you're heavily into budgets and so forth. Is it feasible to put something together? Your staff time to or in November if it's November. Just throwing it out there.
Through your worship, excuse me, through your worship, I think as we start getting into budget, yeah, it's gonna be extremely busy. And even in talking with Miss Mealing, like they start planning for next year's butter tart in the next couple of weeks. So just because butter tart just passed doesn't mean that they're not going to be starting to plan for next week. There is some involvement that they're going to have with the golf tournament as well. So I think there is going to be some limited time for staff to be able to dedicate, at least Karen's team, to be assisting. It's also considerably outside of their area for these types of events and organizing them. It's very different than organizing butter tart and those types of other cultural type of festivals. The county, as they're the ones who organized it last year, they're ultimately the ones that have the expertise. They're the ones who provide the services that these types of symposiums look to talk about. So, but I think it would be challenging for Karen's team to dedicate some time to do this in that time frame that council's looking at having it in whether it's October or November. Thank you.
Any follow-up?
So it would go under cultural and tourism then. This would be her area to organize with the help of Councillor McDonald, who said and Councillor or Deputy Mayor Prost, who said they have time to put this together as well.
Through your worship, we don't have a department that provides these types of services, so this doesn't fall within any department. And Ms. Mealing's department, because this is an event, it shouldn't automatically fall onto her to have to organize this. It's significantly outside of what they typically do for cultural and tourism types of events, and I don't think this would fall under that umbrella. Thank you.
Good. Oh, another follow-up?
So whose umbrella would this fall under if we were to approve this tonight? Who would take the reins on this?
Madam CEO?
Through your worship, that is something that actually is going through my head right now, trying to figure out where it would fall. As Mr. Parkinson said, we don't have a department that does this. I think it's a great idea. I thought the event last year was great. So we have the desire to want to participate. There isn't a department that runs it. I think it's fair if we reach out to the county to ask them, to provide the information that they put together last year in order to set this event up. They do have the connections. I'm not sure if they paid any money to have the gentleman who emceed the event, if they paid out. I mean, they have a list of event speakers that they've gone to, but They actually did plan. They had a team of 3 that actually was planning the event. So at this point in time, long story short here, we don't have a department, so we would have to find someone to do it within our complement.
Deputy Mayor, and then back to Councillor Ball.
Okay, this is very important to Councillor McDonald and myself. Can Councillor McDonald and I rent the room, provide coffee, reach out to all the service providers to see who wants to come and give updates on how the summer went and early fall, and have a public meeting?
Through your worship, yes. You know, there are other municipalities I've been at. They do have town halls, and they have council members host town halls and host events. So it is something that is doable for sure.
Will we get a discount on the room?
Absolutely.
Ball. Councillor Ball.
Thanks. I was just going to say, to clarify, I think that Councillor McDonald was just looking for somebody to advertise and develop graphics like the mayor's golf tournament that is in the hallway there, just a simple sign, that type of thing. I think it's not a hard event to plan. I think that we could do it as a team of council members. I can't imagine that we were going to lean on staff for this one. So.
And if I may, Mayor, we would, of course, we would put things together, but the email blast, so save the date, would have to come from town. That's the kind of assistance we would need, which would be the communications department. But as I said, maybe we can convince Waypoint to take it over. They do this all the time. I did speak to it's the chief administrative officer personally on this, and she did say yes, she would appoint someone to help. So it'd be minimal.
Sounds like
we have to get them going now.
All right, so it sounds like we got a little power committee of Councillor Ball, Councillor McDonald, and Deputy Mayor, and whoever else you can, lasso into this from the service providers. That's good. It keeps it, as long as we stay under quorum, because this is advancing the business of the town. We could easily pull that off internally with just a little staff support rather than, actually deferring and putting the whole thing on staff. So with that knowledge, I wholeheartedly support. If we can knock it out of the park in October, then let's get at her, So we don't have to pick a date this moment at the meeting, but the little committee can meet, hash it out, put us in the loop, and we'll start promoting it. I'll certainly promote the heck out of it. One little clarification I just want to make, or maybe just a point, that we have to be cognizant of our jurisdiction. Even though we're the lowest form of government in this whole stack, and we bear the brunt of the residents' concerns because it's impacting us in our community, we can't fool ourselves into thinking all of a sudden, well, now we have to do something about it. Emotionally, feels like we do, but we don't have the mandate, the jurisdiction, or the funding to deal with this. The social services that we're talking about here are all done from the province through the county, our upper tier. Just like garbage collection and leaf sucking. We couldn't do it if we wanted to, even though it matters to a lot of our residents. So we just need to think about scope. To your point about the gift cards and things, if they can't do these things together, then it falls on us as local municipality to do it. Emotionally, that's a correct statement, but in fact, it isn't. That's not our jurisdiction. We in governance of this corporation in the town of Midland need to stay in our lane and focus on the very expensive things we do have authority and a mandate to deal with, and stay out of the lane of upper tiers where we have no money. If we choose to do it, we're on our own, which means the taxpayers are paying for it. So it gets emotional when we're talking about some of these things, but I just want to, for the people listening, it's not that we don't care. We don't have, it's not our wheelhouse any more than building houses is. Like, we can all agree there's a housing shortage, and we're working with developers. So why doesn't Midland just put a housing committee together and start building affordable housing and running it? Well, if we were the city of Midland and we amalgamated with Penetanguishene, and we're 28,000 strong, we could become a separated city from the county, and therefore that would unlock funding and a mandate for housing. And we could, if our taxpayers could afford it, start a housing corporation and be property managers and run this stuff. But we can't do that as a lower tier municipality. It's not within our confines of what our jurisdiction is. So I'm just saying this as just a sanity checkpoint for the people following along, and maybe also for ourselves. Don't get caught up on the emotional side of this. We have to be a bit more clinical and remember what our governance model is all about and the limits that a lower tier municipality has under the two-tier municipality system in the province. I have to remind myself of this all the time when I want to just go in solution and fix something. I have to ask myself, is it in our mandate? Is it in our jurisdiction? Sometimes the answer is no. So then I got to go schmoozing with whoever it is, whether it's federal, provincial, or the county. So just a point of clarification, I'm not saying you're wrong in your feeling. I'm just saying in execution, I hope the public doesn't think that by us not doing it, it's because we don't care. We can't. We just don't have the power to do it or the funding. So that was my little couple cents I wanted to throw onto that. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you for reminding us. But I do think as a lowest tier of government, we are closest to our residents. And I think what we've decided to do, because we can't do it any other way, is the right thing to do. I don't know that it, I mean, we all have feelings and yes, it's emotional, but I don't think that's what we're doing. I think connecting with our residents and being real people is what we're here to do. That's our job, as well as the big decisions. But that's how I look at it. I'm here for the people of Midland, and I want to be able to meet with them and talk to them and listen to them. And all in one room, or many in one room, will be very nice. So I think we are staying in our lane the way we've set it up. But to me, that's a 50% of our job for sure. And I'm glad it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, well, I think we get a feeling how this is going to result. So why don't I just call the question if we're done yakking about it? All good with that? A recorded vote? Absolutely. Madam Deputy Clerk, you've got the request. And we're almost at the 10 o'clock hour, so we will have to pass a motion shortly to go past 10. Not much past 10, but we are going to pass 10 tonight.
Okay, Council, you've heard the motion. When I call your name, please answer yes or no. Councillor Ball?
Yes.
Councillor McDonald?
Yes.
Councillor Patel? Deputy Mayor Prost?
Yes.
Councillor Downer? You're on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Councillor East?
Yes.
Councillor Meredith?
Yes.
Councillor Bald? Mayor Gordon?
Yes.
So we have 8 in favor, 1 opposed. That's carried.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, moving right along. Do you want to do that motion now? Just get out of the way, or you figure it's possible we might keep it in 10? Or does it hurt to do it in advance? Oh, we'll get it done out of the way. All right, procedurally, if we go past 10, we have to have a motion. Oh, so I'll wait until we get almost to the witching hour? Okay, very good. Okie doke. 22.2. Moved by Sheldon East. Here, I'm pulling a U here. Moved by Councillor East. Seconded by, we've all read it, so anyone want to second this one? Very good, Councillor Ball. That staff investigate the possibility of placing 2 floating docks in Little Lake, with one to be used as a swim platform and the other to be used for fishing and launching kayaks and small aluminum boats, and that a staff report be presented to council at a future meeting. Take it away, Councillor East.
Thank you, through your worship. Sorry, my head is killing. So this one was kind of important to me because I walk every day Little Lake Park, and I talk to a lot of people that walk down there. And what happens is that, for instance, the rowing club has a really nice dock out there, but unfortunately, elderly with their dogs, kids playing on it get scolded for being on it. And I was speaking with a couple of people, and they were inquiring about the possibility of building a couple of docks similar to what the rowing club has out there, but specifically one so that, you know, kids can jump off of, swim off of in the middle of the lake, or not obviously the middle, but, you know, maybe a nice 30-foot one with a big square deck at the end of it, and then a separate one specifically for launching boats and fishing off of. The reasoning behind the separation and division of them is that we don't want, you know, for instance, the dock at the rowing club constantly has fish hooks left there on their docks, and we don't want kids obviously jumping off of a dock with fish hooks. So what I was proposing was that we investigate the opportunity of building 2 floating docks, one, say, somewhere around the restaurant, so families can use it. And then the other would be around where the launch is for boats as it is right now. Every morning I see guys fishing, you know, and they have to go out there and actually walk out into the water with their waders on. I just thought it would be a great opportunity to really utilize how beautiful Little Lake Park really is. It's an untapped resource, and I hearing what people are saying, especially when they do go on the rowing club's docks and get scolded immensely, we'd be providing a new service down there so that our residents could enjoy docks in the lake park. I don't think it really has to be overly expensive either. I'm just saying, you know, something that families can swim off of and hang out at, and the other one that they can launch their kayaks, their aluminum boats, so that they don't have to go in the water, and then maybe a little bit of fishing specifically off of that one dock so that we can keep the fish hooks off the family dock. So that was the premise behind it, and I'm sorry, I really wanted to speak to this one, but my head's just pounding right now, so I'll let everybody speak to it.
Sounded good. I think you nailed all the points on it. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor East. This brought back a lot of memories. I think most of us grew up with floating docks at Little Lake Park, right? When you're old enough to swim all the way out there and jump off. I think it's worth investigating, and it might get people back in the water. The more the water's used, the better it is. I would support having this investigated for sure.
Okay, so I guess 2 things. One, service level enhancement belongs on our budget because clearly there's going to be costs involved. And staff would need to be looking into whether we can recycle maybe one of the docks that's coming out of service from the harbor and use them there, or if they're not the right kind of dock, and the cost of all this. So really it belongs in the budget conversation. So I would fully support having staff look into this and have it appear on the service level change document. But the problem is it's before us tonight. So I just procedurally, you know, if council is of the mind to kind of park this and have somebody, probably Councillor East, submit this as a service level change, what does that mean to this motion? If we were to vote it down right now, does that preclude it from coming back on the budget as a service level request? My gut says it doesn't, but before I suggest that we do that, I want to make sure that I'm covering my base. I haven't euchred Councillor East's motion. Madam CEO?
Through your worship, you could table this motion to discuss at budget.
Right, so tabling it, the motion. So that's, council, that's what I would suggest we do. Because there's a couple of things. One is, I think it was last term, or maybe it was 2 terms ago, then Councillor Olszewski got a floating dock and was really trying to get people back in the water swimming. Of course, we had Jaws at the lake too. That was pretty cool. But that floating dock wasn't used much except by geese. And man, did they use it. And it was disgusting. Just covered in goose poop. Nobody in their right mind would want to swim out and get on it. I'm not saying that would happen again, but I don't know why it wouldn't, right? The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and our geese are not really going anywhere. So that would be my cautionary tale. As far as the one for launching boats and everything, that's something that's shore-based. Not a big deal to me. I think it's a great idea. We can look at both. But I would suggest that rather than, passing this right now and tasking staff, which would be expectation, they get working on it, add it to their work project. If we tabled this, then we'd see it as an enhancement request in our budget, and they will have a chance to cost it and look into it, and we'll see the output as we do in every budget on whether we want to fund that and how feasible it is, and what are other things we're not thinking about, probably insurance and liability and all the other fund governors that exist in the world. So that would be my suggestion to council, is that we table this and not, pull the trigger on it tonight. But I'm in your hands. Councillor Ball?
I was just maybe going to suggest that we look into controlling the geese population. I know that Mr. Ferguson had some ideas with CDs before that are a low cost, but maybe as you're saying that there are a lot of geese there and that might not get used because of that. Maybe the first step is to look at how we control the geese population.
A sidebar, but certainly. Councillor East?
The thing is, though, is that like that rowing club dock, for instance, it's not covered at all. And it's beautiful. So what I'm envisioning is something similar to that. And I totally agree with tabling it. I knew it was going to be a budget thing. I was kind of hoping that maybe this summer we could look at, having a couple docks out there, but there's nothing wrong with tabling it and discussing it at budget time. I want to plant a seed right now so that we can think about it and figure out a way to make it happen. Because like I said, the lake is a gem. I almost find it better than Midland Bay Landing. So I would just love to utilize it more.
Well, it certainly gives the public plenty of time to think about this and weigh in between now and budget time, if that's will of council. Councillor?
Thank you. Just a question on for staff through you, Mayor Gordon. When these type of purchases, do they have to go through procurement, or let's say someone's willing to donate a dock. I know docks, Techstar floating docks comes to mind. I've looked into them quite a lot. They're not as cheap once you put you frame them and you put wood, pressure treated wood. They can get up there depending on the size and so forth. But if someone was to donate that, is that a possibility, or does this have to go through a process of procurement?
Through your worship to Councillor Emeritus, they would be able to donate. At this point in time, we're creating a donation policy. So that would be in place prior to the next season. So they would be able to donate it rather than go through a full procurement policy, or process, but we are in the process of creating that policy at this point in time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sounds like another shakedowns in the making here. Well, the municipality loves to take on philanthropic donations, and there'd be signing rights, and it's sponsored stuff for the greater good. It's a big deal. I mean, I hope that a lot of the splash pad will be covered that way. So good question, good idea, and that gives us time, gives you time to pursue some contacts. And if people watching online, if one of you are thinking of upgrading your dock of your cottage, wondering what am I going to do with this thing, I think we found an answer to that question, as long as it still floats. All right, so Madam, unless there's more discussion to Councillor Patel, I just wanted to know what we need to do to the wording on this to table it, but I'll leave that with you.
So I guess since we're looking for a donation, I think I might have a lead to a person who actually removes docks and throws them in the dump. So maybe I could talk to him and see if this could be possible.
Lovely. So we have an amended motion coming my way here. Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, we got 2 minutes. You know what? So I'm going to do I'll do the 10 one right now. I need a mover and a seconder to go past 10 o'clock. Councillor East, seconded by Deputy Mayor Prost. That pursuant to section 6.2E of the procedure bylaw 2022-2, council agrees to remain in session past 10 p.m. in order to deal with the remaining items included on the agenda. All those in favor? My usual opposed? And it still carries, but that's okay. Consistency is key. All right. So the amended motion, which effectively tables this item, will have the same movers. So moved by Councillor East. Was it Councillor Ball? Did you second this? No. The council defer item 22.2 motions for which notice was given, specifically that staff investigate the possibility of placing 2 floating docks in Little Lake, with one to be used as a swim platform and the other to be used for fishing and launching kayaks and small aluminum boats, and that staff report be presented to council at the 2025 budget deliberations. So, any questions about the revised motion? Councillor McDonald.
It says deferred. Is there a time to when, as opposed to tabled?
Yeah, it was deferred to the 2025 budget deliberation.
Thank you.
Allergic to meeting past 10 o'clock. Must be whatever Councillor McDonald has is rubbing off of me. Didn't want to sneeze into the mic. Okay, so council, you've heard the question, deferring this to the budget, and we'll hash it out. And maybe by then, Councillor Patel will find us used, almost ready to be garbaged, but still good dock. Or Councillor Emeritus may find us something spanking new. Yeah, or some combination thereof. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. That's passed. Carried. That's the old one. Okay, so the next one in my pile here is the one that we pulled, and that's the camping in Little Lake Park. Similar thing. It's going to show up as we already pulled it, so I won't even talk about it, but it'll show up in budget. Next. Oh, well, this is, I guess it's not really conflict. I'll do this anyway. Moved by Councillor Patel. I need a seconder for the next motion. It's the one about AMO Board of Directors. Councillor East. And the council for the Corporation and Town of Midland nominates me for the position of director on the small urban caucus seats on the AMO Board of Directors for the 2024 to 2026 term. So council, the reason why this is here is there's an open call for people to put their name forward for the AMO elections at the upcoming AMO in August. And one of the sort of small working groups called the Small Urban Caucus takes 4 members from the AMO. They don't have to be mayors, they can be councillors. And there's 4 people that sit on it that deal with small urban issues, specifically within the broader scope of AMO. Right now, there's 4 people's names on that so far, at least last time I checked. So there won't be an election, and it'll just be acclaimed. There's some work involved, no remuneration, next to no expenses. A lot of it's done online. And I thought I would throw my name in the hat. There's no certainty that I can convince my peers from the 444 municipalities, of which, a small percentage are small urbans, to vote for me over the other able candidates that have put their name in, but I can't put my name in for even consideration without council's blessing. So this is the wording that basically lets the AMO know that I have my council's blessing to seek this office, and if I'm elected to it, then that I would work in that small urban caucus on behalf of small urban municipalities all over the province for the next 2 years. So it's just, I'm a busy guy, but I'm willing to take on the work if people put their trust in me at AMO. And if they don't, well, then at least I've made an election out of it rather than acclamations. So that's why this is on the agenda tonight. And, clearly it's open for discussion, and I'll accept council's, judgment on this if you want to keep me all to yourselves. So open the floor. Councilor Emeritus.
Absolutely, of course. Yeah, I thought I was very well surprised to see this one, and really grateful that you put your name in and going for it. So and obviously have no, other than the passion of our small urban community, to represent not only us but all the urban communities around. But it would be nice to See a name there from Midland. So you have my support 100%.
Councillor Patel, you didn't put your hand up, but you were leaning in, so I was reading that as very good. Say something.
Well, thank you for stepping in and representing, I guess, the delegation for small communities.
Thanks. Well, just if I put my name in, you still got to vote for me, though. So I'll have to convince you. I'll have to have a good stump speech at AMO if this passes. Councillor Bald.
Yes, for you.
I'm not looking for people to lavish praises on me or anything like that. Just if there's any concerns about this, my only pledge is that it won't eat into my time here. What I'm doing, it's extracurricular, and I'm, if I'm successful, then I'll manage my time accordingly. Councillor Downer.
Good for you. Go for it. Congratulations. I hope you win.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm with Councillor Downer. I think you'll put your name in, and I think you'll get it.
Well, we'll see how the cookie crumbles, as it were, at the AMO. But I'll give it to quote one of our past mayors, I'll give it my level best, and see what the outcome is. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I guess with that, Council, I'll just call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you for your endorsement, and I'll file the requisite paperwork in the next couple of weeks because it's due. That's why I had to put it on this agenda. Next, we move along to number. Why am I losing my numbers? Oh, that's it? Are we done? Well, holy moly. Is there bylaws now, right? Yeah, there's no more motions. Okay, sorry, I'm scrolling through the motions. All right, section 23.1 bylaw. So I've got a package of bylaws here. So moved by Deputy Mayor Prost, seconded by Councillor Ball, that the following bylaws, bylaw 2024-36, prohibit or regulate the keeping of certain animals within the boundaries of the town of Midland, and to repeal our old bylaw 2013-79, and also bylaw 2024-37, amend bylaw 2024-29, being a bylaw to establish and approve the fees and charges for the town of Midland to be passed and enacted. Any questions on this, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at this, prohibit or regulate the keeping. Is it not the feeding?
That's the name of the bylaw, the umbrella that contains this prohibition. We didn't create a whole new bylaw just for the prohibition of the feeding. It's being baked into the existing bylaw, so I recall correctly.
Yeah, so, but approving it like this with this wording is okay? It's still everything that I've read? Okay.
Yeah, because it's actually in the new bylaw. It's just a new section. I didn't actually, it's a good question. Let me just double check. Let's find the section number where it was added.
Well, I read it.
Is number 3? Number 3.
It just, if you read that first line,
yes,
it sounds totally different.
Yeah, because it's the name of the bylaw. So yeah, section 3, feeding of wildlife, 3.1 is a new addition. No person shall intentionally feed a wild animal or leave food or attractants of any type or in any form out of doors in such a manner as to attract or to be accessible by a wild animal, feral or stray domestic animal on private or public property. Therein lies the rub.
Thank you.
Before it was just our public property. So it's covered off.
And thank you again to staff.
All right, for those few offenders out there in the town that have been doing this, please stop, because bylaw is coming for you. Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? All right, so council, you've heard the question in my terrible song rendition. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. All right. Next, moved by Councillor Downer, seconded by Councillor Meredith, that a bylaw 2024-38, being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of this regular council meeting with closed session held June 12, 2024, be passed and enacted. All those in favor? Any opposed? And it's carried. Next, moved by Councillor Bald, seconded by Councillor Patel, that this regular meeting of council with closed session adjourn at 10:08 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.